Chapter 25:12. Deducing the sealing array. How can this kid be so powerful and terrifying? Devour King was dumbfounded. A single sword strike was enough to destroy the barrier around the bone world. This was a barrier laid down by the previous Devour King. Even if it had been shelved for countless years, it shouldn't have been destroyed so easily. The moment the barrier shattered, Devour King didn't even have time to react. The white-robed youth had already appeared before him, smiling at him. Devour King, I trust you've been well since we last met. Yun leaned against a stone pillar as he stared at Devour King and said casually. Devour King felt as if there was a blade on his back, and he couldn't sit still. If it was an ordinary life in Lightning Realm cultivator, he wouldn't be so uneasy. However, Yun was able to shatter the starry sky with ease. Clearly, he wasn't an ordinary life in Lightning Realm cultivator. Devour King still had the appearance of a sloppy man. When he saw Zhuan looking at him, he forced a smile and said, Brother Zhuan, I trust you've been well since we last met. Congratulations. How many years has it been since we last met? You've already reached the life in Lightning Realm. I was right. Zhuan sneered in his heart. Devour King had taken a fancy to his clone and wanted to possess it. Fortunately, Devour King had mistaken his main body for Devour and his clone for a human. In the end, Yun was lucky enough to avoid being possessed. If Devour King had directly possessed his human main body, Yun wouldn't have been so lucky. Therefore, Yun didn't have a good impression of Devour King. Zhuan slowly walked over, but his eyes casually looked around and said, Looks like you've put in a lot of effort these years. You've actually blasted a new hole in this sealing array. Zhuan scanned the area with his spiritual consciousness and soon discovered several loopholes in the level 9 array sealing the Devourer Monarch. He had fixed the only loophole back then. At the same time, he had also cut off Devour King's life force, making it impossible for Devour King to continue fighting against him. Now that Zhuan was here again, he discovered several loopholes in the array. He knew that Devour King had put in a lot of effort over the years to create several loopholes for him. Before Zhuan could finish his words, Devour King roared and charged at Zhuan. Pitch-black energy gushed out of his hands, turning into huge black claws that grabbed at Zhuan. Zhuan calmly stood his ground. Devour King. And King. Zhuan's king. Devour King was sent flying. Blood flowed from his abdomen as he fell heavily to the ground. Although a large amount of vitality energy was flowing out of the hole and healing King Devourer's injuries, the speed of recovery was too slow. Zhuo Wenli ignored the Devourer King. Instead, he leisurely took out the 9 array discs made of beast bones. Then, he formed a hand seal and immediately found several loopholes in the seal. Back when he was still a level 7 Divine Array Master, he had already deduced the loopholes in the array. Now that he was a level 8 Divine Array Master, finding the loopholes was a piece of cake for him. Yun changed his hand seal, and the loopholes were sealed up by Zhuan. Without the life force, Devour King's injuries began to worsen. The terrifying death energy was like maggots that couldn't be dispelled. It continued to penetrate Devour King's body. Devour King's body trembled. He was in despair. In the previous exchange, he already knew that he was no match for Zhuo Wen in his current state. Perhaps if his true body wasn't sealed, he might be able to defeat Zhuo Wen. Unfortunately, his true body was completely sealed. He didn't even have a tenth of his strength left. He couldn't even take a single blow from Zhuan. Devour King also realized that it was only Zhuowen's true body that fought him. If Zhuan used his doppelganger that had awakened the bloodline of Devour King, he might be killed in a single blow. You're not going to kill me? Devour King asked tentatively. He knew very well that Zhuan could kill him easily. However, Yun didn't do that. He only injured him. On the contrary, I'm going to save you, Zhuan said with a faint smile. Devour King furrowed his brows and said coldly, You mean you're going to help me undo this level 9 seal array? Zhuan nodded. He released the black-clothed Zhuan and stood at the side to guard Devour King. As for his true body, he sat cross-legged on the ground and took out the 72 beast bone array discs. The 72 beast bone array discs combined with the other 9 beast bone array discs to form a total of 81 array discs. The beast bone array discs transformed into a terrifying storm that swept out in all directions. It was as though there were countless tentacles that were constantly probing the array. Zhuowen's powerful consciousness was attached to the beast bone array discs. He began to comprehend this level 9 seal array by following the energy of the beast bone array discs. Zhuowen's array Dao had already reached the pinnacle of the level 8 array Dao. In Zhuowen's opinion, as long as he could comprehend this level 9 sealing array and successfully decipher it, then his array Dao level would naturally advance to the level 9 array Dao level. At that time, he would officially become a level 9 array Dao Divine Master. Level 9 array Dao Divine Masters were definitely rare existences in the 8 heavens. Their numbers were probably even rarer than life enlightenment realm experts. Back then, there was a level 9 array Dao in the 6 Desires Palace. Zhuon knew that there should be a level 9 array Dao Divine Master in the 6 Desires Palace. However, back then he had fallen out with the 6 Desires Palace very quickly. Therefore, he didn't have the opportunity to meet the level 9 array Dao Divine Master. Later on, he heard that the 6 Desires Palace was destroyed. The level 9 array Dao Divine Master in the 6 Desires Palace should be dead. As for the Great Brahma Domain, they didn't even have a life and death realm cultivator, let alone a level 9 array Dao Divine Master. Seeing that Zhuon was really pretending to deduce the array, the Devourer King sneered, "Even if you can really undo this seal array, I won't thank you. Moreover, if you have the intention of making me your servant, don't even think about it. You might as well kill me." Zhuon didn't even turn his head as he replied, "Don't worry. I'm willing to undo this seal array. As for you, I will deal with you after I undo it." The Devourer King narrowed his eyes and didn't say anything else. He didn't think much of it. The Devourer King felt that Zhuon was a little arrogant. However, he was a little fanatical. He knew that this kid was extremely talented in array Dao. Perhaps he might really be able to undo the seal array. As long as this kid could undo the seal array, he would be able to leave this damned place. As for Zhuon, the Devourer King sneered in his heart. After he broke free from the seal array, his true body would be completely revealed. Although Zhuowen's strength was extraordinary, the Devourer King was more confident in his true body. Chapter 25:13. Promoted to a level 9 Divine Formation Master, the Beast Bone Array Disc was constantly operating, and Zhuowen's divine sense was inextricably linked. He was inspecting every inch of the grand sealing array. Zhuon memorized every single detail of the sealing formation. At the same time, with the help of the Beast Bone Disc Array and his own formation skills, he began to deduce the principles of the sealing formation. As time passed, the Devourer King sat on the side with an ugly expression. He tried his best to control his injuries while his resentment towards Zhuon grew. The hole in the sealing formation had been fixed by Zhuon. Now that he had lost the supply of vitality, it would be much harder for him to recover from his injuries. Furthermore, the king's sword in Zhuowen's hand contained the energy of death. The death energy was extremely tricky. If it weren't for Devourer King controlling the death energy with all his might, Zhuowen's injuries would have continued to worsen. It might even have affected his life. However, the Devourer King knew that this wasn't a long-term solution. If he wanted to recover from his injuries, he had to release his true body after the sealing formation was undone. Otherwise, he could only wait for death to come. Thinking of this, the Devourer King looked at Zhuon with even more anxiety. He wanted nothing more than for Zhuon to undo the sealing formation right now. However, he knew that this was only his imagination. 10 years later, the Devourer King leaned on the side on the verge of death. His eyes were drooping. The injuries on his body had worsened to 90% of his body. These terrifying injuries could take his life at any time. At this moment, the Devourer King didn't even have the strength to roll his eyes at Zhuon. This was the first time he felt that death was so close to him. He could only curse Zhuowen's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. Suddenly, Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, abruptly opened his eyes. Blazing light shot out from his eyes like lightning, dazzling and dazzling. Zhuon abruptly stood up, his sleeves fluttering even though there was no wind. Then, Zhuowen's right hand quickly pointed out. Instantly, The 81 beast bone array discs scattered in the air turned into 81 star dots, shooting into 81 different directions. Soon, the 81 beast bone array discs disappeared into the surrounding ceiling array. Zhuowen's gaze turned increasingly solemn. Zhuowen's hands were forming hand seals at lightning speed. His speed was so fast that it was dazzling, but his gaze became more and more solemn and deep. Devouring King, who was originally sitting at the side on the verge of death, suddenly had a bright look in his eyes. His true body was trapped inside the ceiling array, so he could clearly sense the changes in the ceiling array. Although the ceiling formation looked calm on the surface, King Devourer knew that the inside of the formation was like a raging sea, fiercely resisting the beast bone formation. What surprised him even more was that every time the ceiling array's power came into contact with the beast bone formation, the beast bone formation would evade in a roundabout way, looking for another opening. This cycle repeated itself, and naturally, some of the beast bone formation discs slipped through the net and entered the ceiling array. With the first opening, there would naturally be a second. More and more openings appeared in the ceiling array. Then, King Devourer was pleasantly surprised to find that the array base of the ceiling array began to shake. The moment the array base was shaken, the surrounding space began to tremble violently. The trembling grew more and more violent, as if the entire world was about to be destroyed. Many cultivators who had been trapped in the skeleton world for countless years felt the abnormality in the skeleton world. They were all frightened and confused, discussing what was going on in the skeleton world. Rumble. The trembling of the ceiling array only lasted for an hour before it collapsed with a loud bang. The speed of the collapse was slow at first, but it suddenly became rapid and rapid. Finally, it spread to the entire ceiling array, and then the ceiling array collapsed completely. The moment the ceiling array collapsed, Yun waved his sleeve, and a huge black vortex appeared in the sky above the skeleton world. All the cultivators who were trapped in the skeleton world were sucked into the black vortex. The black vortex led to the outside world of the starry sky. When these cultivators appeared in the outside world, their eyes were filled with confusion, but they soon became excited. We're out. After being trapped in the skeleton world for countless years, we're finally out. I'm not dreaming, am I? I can't believe I can use my divine sense again. We're really out of that damned skeleton world. Thank God we're finally free. Although many cultivators did not know why they were suddenly out of the skeleton world, they still could not suppress the excitement in their hearts. Let's get out of here quickly. If the starry sky fault has a strong suction force again, we'll be back to that damned place again. Soon, some cultivators realized that they were still in a dangerous place and immediately took out their flying divine tools to escape. Ha, Zhuowen, you're quite compassionate. You even took care of these ants. But it doesn't matter. Compared to you, these ants are too weak. Today I'll destroy you. An arrogant voice suddenly resounded from the starry sky fault. Then, the starry sky fault suddenly collapsed, and a huge monster appeared. Zhuan floated in the starry sky, silently looking at the huge monster in front of him. He knew that this huge monster was the Devourer King. The Devourer King in front of him was very different from Zhuowen's clone. After Zhuowen's clone awakened the bloodline of the Devourer King, it was only about 10 feet tall and covered in golden scales. However, the Devourer King in front of him was different. The Devourer King's body was 10,000 feet tall and the scales on its body were blood red. From afar, it looked like a strange beast covered in blood. It looked extremely strange. After the Devourer King's real body left the seal, it immediately roared into the sky. The terrifying roar caused a terrifying shockwave that radiated out for hundreds of millions of miles. Wherever the shockwave passed, planets would explode and living beings would perish. Zhuan faced the terrifying shockwave without moving an inch. He only silently looked at the Devourer King in front of him. The moment the seal was broken, Zhuowen's array Dao had successfully advanced to Tier 9. Zhuan knew that he would be a true Tier 9 array Dao master in the future. By then, setting up Tier 9 array Dao would be a piece of cake. You're very brave. How can you be so calm in the face of my real body? Chapter 25:14. Subduing King Devour Zhuowen's white robe fluttered in the wind, and the black-clothed Zhuowen was standing beside him. He looked at Devourer King calmly and said, "It seems like you've lied to me a lot. Your strength isn't at the 9 steps void sky. You've probably reached the Tao realm, right? It's a pity." Devourer King didn't seem to care. He said, "After being sealed for so many years, my strength is indeed less than 10%. However, my strength is still comparable to an expert in the death realm. Even if an expert in the 2 extremities of life and death came here personally, he might not be able to take me down. This time, as long as I kill you, I'll find a place to cultivate in seclusion. Once my injuries are completely healed, I'll slaughter my way to the devouring clan in the great desolate heaven region and eliminate that bastard, the new king of the devouring clan." Speaking of the new king of the devouring clan, Devourer King's eyes were filled with bloodthirst. His voice was filled with hatred and murderous intent. Great desolate heaven region? Is it the 9th heaven region on the other side of the heavenly moat? Then, is the devouring world you mentioned a lie? Zhuowen's eyes lit up as he asked immediately. Devourer King sneered, "You're indeed a frog at the bottom of a well. You actually believed the story I made up. At that time, I just wanted to know if you were from the great desolate heaven region or not. Later on, I found out that you were just a pitiful worm wandering in the 8 heavens region. There was no risk in taking over your body. However, I didn't expect that a bastard like you would actually deceive me." When he thought of how Zhuon had confidently said that the human body was a clone and the devouring clan's body was the main body, Devourer King's heart was filled with depression. It was because he had mistaken the primary and secondary that he failed to take over the body. In the end, he was suppressed by Zhuon and even lost his most precious phagocytosis. However, he knew that he had to take everything back. No one could stop him. Zhuon nodded. He tightened his grip on the king's sword and slashed out a terrifying sword chi. He said, "In that case, I'll capture you and force you to tell me the truth." Devourer King laughed. He casually swung his huge blood claw and dispersed the sword chi. He sneered, You're just a life-comprehending realm expert. No matter how extraordinary your life-comprehending realm is, in my opinion, you're just a life-comprehending realm expert. In my opinion, you're just a life-comprehending life realm expert. You're just a life realm expert. No matter how extraordinary your life-comprehending realm is, in my opinion, you is life-comprehending is life realm. Devouring King's voice had just sounded when he saw that Zhuowen was surrounded by a misty purple fog. Soon after, Devouring King discovered that the starry sky around him had unknowingly turned into a boundless purple sea. Devouring King tried to break free from the purple sea, but he was shocked to find that everything was in vain. Because when he wanted to spread his wings and soar, he found that he was still spinning in place. To be more precise, his time was forever frozen at this point. What's your relationship with the space-time master? Devourer King looked at Zhuowen in shock. Unfortunately, Yuan didn't pay any attention to Devourer King. Instead, he stepped on the purple sea. Behind him, a purple sun slowly rose from the end of the purple sea. Devourer King's words came to an abrupt halt. He felt a terrifying energy crushing his body. As the purple sun rose higher, the energy grew stronger. Plop. Finally, when the purple sun rose to its highest point, Devourer King couldn't bear the terrifying energy. He lay on the ground, his body trembling. Bastard! How can this space-time ability be so terrifying? Break for me! Devourer King roared unwillingly. The scales on his body emitted a terrifying blood-red light. Then, an earth-shattering bestial roar echoed. Devourer King, who was lying on the ground, suddenly released his aura. Like a tide, he broke free from the space-time restriction of the space-time sea and pounced at Jun. Jun narrowed his eyes. He stretched out his right hand unhurriedly. He raised his index finger and slowly lowered it. The purple sun behind him fell rapidly. Rumble! A terrifying explosion resounded. Like a meteor, the purple sun smashed in front of Devourer King. At this moment, Devourer King's attention was focused on Jun. The moment he was about to pounce on Jun, he felt a heavy weight on his waist. Then he felt an intense pain. It was as though a mountain was pressing on his waist. A miserable shriek resounded. Soon after, Devourer King was smashed into the depths of the purple sea by the purple sun. When the space-time sea gradually receded, Devourer King was like a pile of mud, lying on the starry sky. He was on his last breath. Although Devourer King's true strength was unfathomable, it was a pity that he had been sealed for too long. His strength had been greatly depleted. At this moment, he was only at the death realm. Devourer King's current strength was only slightly stronger than Great Brahma. Compared to many experts in the life and death realm, he was much weaker. Zhuan could kill Great Brahma in a single move. It would be strange if Devourer King was a match for Zhuan. How is this possible? How can your strength be so terrifying? Devourer King roared crazily. In his heart, he was starting to regret. It was no wonder that Zhuan could release the seal so easily. It turned out that this kid's strength was so strong. Just a single move from him was enough to injure him. However, Devourer King was unwilling to accept this. His strength had been greatly depleted. His good mood from escaping was instantly destroyed by Zhuan's defeat. Zhuan slowly walked in front of Devourer King. With a flip of his right hand, the huge phagocytosis expanded to 10,000 zhang in size. It pressed down on Devourer King, causing Devourer King to spit out a mouthful of blood. He almost fainted. Devourer King, you only have one choice now. Become my servant. Zhuan said indifferently. Regaining his senses, Devourer King glared at Zhuan and said coldly, I am the king of the Devourer clan. You want me to submit to you? Dream on. Let me finish. I don't want you to be my servant forever. I only want you to stay for 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, you can leave or stay. It's up to you, Zhuan continued. Devourer King immediately hesitated. If he was asked to be Zhuan's servant forever, he naturally wouldn't be willing. However, if it was 1,000 years, he could consider it. After all, 1,000 years was just a blink of an eye in his eyes. Zhuan revealed a smile. He knew that Devourer King wouldn't be subdued so easily. Hence, he was smart enough to give an appropriate time limit. After all, Devourer King had cultivated for countless years. It wasn't easy for him. Furthermore, Devourer King still wanted to take revenge. He definitely wouldn't want to die like this. Sure enough, Devourer King thought for a while and agreed coldly, however, you can't order me around as you wish. You can only have an equal relationship with me, not a master-servant relationship. Zhuan smiled faintly and said, Of course. However, you can't refuse my orders. Otherwise, I will kill you. Seeing Zhuan agree, Devourer King relaxed. Then, Zhuan signed a contract with Devourer King. The punishment of the contract was very binding on Devourer King. Zhuan wasn't worried that Devourer King would break the contract. Moreover, Zhuan had already planned to subdue Devourer King. Since Devourer King wasn't a creature from the 8 heavens, he definitely knew something about the 9th heaven. He might even know something about the door of profundity. Hence, his main purpose in subduing Devourer King was to learn more about the world outside the 8 heavens from Devourer King. Of course, after learning that Devourer King had the strength to corroborate his Tao, Zhuan was even more determined to subdue Devourer King. Chapter 25:15. The Great Desolate Heavenly Realm and the Xianmi Heavenly Realm. By the way, what you told me about the devouring world was a lie, right? Zhuan stared at the Devouring King. A light flickered in the Devouring King's eyes as he nodded. Yes. Back then, my goal was to seize your body, so I didn't tell you the truth. The devouring world doesn't exist, but our devouring clan does. Your devouring clan exists in the Great Desolate Heavenly Realm. Then, tell me more about this so-called Great Desolate Heavenly Realm. Zhuan said indifferently. The Devouring King glanced at Zhuan and didn't refuse. The Great Desolate Heavenly Realm is actually one level higher than the 8 heavenly realms. It's the true origin of this universe. The 8 heavenly realms are big enough, right? However, compared to the Great Desolate Heavenly Realm, it's nothing. Moreover, the Great Desolate Heavenly Realm's heavenly Tao source is many times richer than the 8 heavenly realms. In the Great Desolate Heavenly Realm, experts who have reached the 9th step of the illusionary heavenly realm are too common. and Tao-confirming experts can be found everywhere. It's said that there are even heaven-breaking experts in the legends, but I've never seen them before. Those experts have already transcended beyond the starry skies, and their traces are ethereal. They're not existences that we can touch. Speaking of heaven-breaking experts, the devouring king's eyes were filled with eagerness and yearning. The heaven-breaking realm was a realm that countless creatures in this universe yearned for even in their dreams. Zhuan pondered for a moment, then said, "Since the great desolate heavenly realm exists, do you know how to get there?" The devouring king glanced at Zhuan and sneered, "The great desolate heavenly realm is a taboo for you human cultivators. Once a human enters the great desolate heavenly realm, they will definitely be surrounded and killed by the creatures in the great desolate heavenly realm, or they will become pitiful slaves." Zhuan was stunned. He stared at the devouring king and asked, "The great desolate heavenly realm is a taboo for the human race? Why do you say that?" Zhuan didn't really believe it. If the great desolate heavenly realm was the ninth heaven, how could it be so against the human race? The devouring king cast a sidelong glance at Zhuan and mocked, "You're really ignorant. You've already reached the life comprehension realm. You should know that there's a natural chasm at the end of the starry sky, right?" Zhuan nodded but didn't say anything. In the past, the heavenly moat wasn't the great desolate heavenly domain. Instead, it was the Xianmi heavenly domain, which the cunning humans split from the great desolate heavenly domain. Seeing that Zhuan was still confused, the Devourer King patiently explained. After listening to the Devourer King's explanation, Zhuan finally understood the whole story. According to Devourer King, the primitive heavenly domain was the true core of the universe. There were countless races in the primitive heavenly domain. The primitive heavenly domain was divided according to the strength of the race. The devouring clan was famous in the great desolate heavenly domain. A long time ago, it used to be one of the top 10 clans in the great desolate heavenly domain, the peak clan of the entire great desolate heavenly domain. However, due to the internal strife and the fact that there weren't many of them to begin with, the devouring king had gradually declined. Now, they could only be considered below average in the great desolate heaven realm. The name of the devouring king in front of him was Bloodscale, the previous king of the devouring clan. Later on, a new king of the devouring clan schemed against him. Bloodscale was severely injured and exiled to the deathly silent outer space. Moreover, it was under the condition that his devouring king true body was sealed. Originally, Bloodscale thought that he would continue to wander in the lonely outer space. Because his vitality was sealed, he couldn't change his direction or fly. He could only go with the flow. However, he accidentally stumbled into a fault in the outer space. Bloodscale's true body was in the depths of the fault and turned into a huge skeleton world. Originally, Bloodscale didn't know anything about the fault in the outer space. However, he gradually discovered that there were human cultivators who fell into the fault and into the skeleton world. After discovering the human cultivators, Bloodscale was extremely nervous. He thought that he had fallen into the human race's headquarters, the Xianmi heavenly domain. Later on, he discovered that he was wrong. From the words of the human cultivators who fell into the skeleton world, he knew that they weren't cultivators from the Xianmi heavenly domain. They were from the so-called 8 heavenly domains. Bloodscale didn't know much about the 8 heavenly domains. Because the outer space where the 8 heavenly domains were located was too barren, Bloodscale didn't specifically inquire about the 8 heavenly domains. However, he was, after all, a creature from the great desolate heaven realm. He knew that there was not only a natural moat in front of the Xianmi heavenly domain, but also an extremely inferior outer space. On the other side of this inferior outer space was the great desolate heaven realm. This was deliberately set up by the Xianmi heavenly domain to prevent the great desolate heaven realm from invading. Zhuan's face was unsightly. If what Bloodscale said was true, wouldn't the 8 heavenly domains become the cannon fodder of the Xianmi heavenly domain? Once the great desolate heaven realm invaded the 8 heavenly domains, it would be a great disaster for the 8 heavenly domains. He finally knew that the ruler of the heavenly domains, the 9th heaven, was the Xianmi heavenly domain. You said that the human race split from the great desolate heaven realm? Why did the human race split from the great desolate heaven realm? Yuan asked in surprise. Bloodscale shook his head and said, as for the specific reason, it's too long ago, so I'm not too clear about it. I only know that before the human race split from the great desolate heaven realm, the human race was the most terrifying race in the great desolate heaven realm. Even the witch race, the strongest race in the great desolate heaven realm, was only the second strongest race in the human race's glory. Later, I learned that the division of the human tribes seemed to be due to some disagreement with the Wu tribe. It seemed to involve the great ancestor of sorcery. Of course, this is just hearsay. You should know the details from the human tribe when your cultivation is higher. Yuan was confused. After all, he was still in the 8 heavenly domains. Whether it was the Xianmi heavenly domain or the great desolate heaven realm, he didn't know anything about it. As for what Devouring King had just said, he didn't know much about it. However, Zhuo knew that this should be the secret of the great desolate heaven realm and the Xianmi heavenly domain. At least, as an outsider, he wasn't qualified to know about it. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to it. You said that you were exiled to the outer space by the Devouring clan. In other words, the great desolate heaven realm and the outer space have a passage that connects? Zhuan asked. Bloodscale nodded and said, the energy in the outer space is very weak. Dao-confirming experts can easily tear a hole and enter the outer space. However, the outer space doesn't have any energy, so it's hard to stay there for a long time. I know what you want to say. The outer space of the 8 heavenly domains is very secretive. If you don't know the location in advance, it's very difficult to find the 8 heavenly domains. If it weren't for my good luck, I wouldn't have been able to enter the outer space vault of the 8 heavens. Chapter 25:16. Secret news. The creatures of the ancient desolate heavenly realm might not know the location of the 8 heavens, but Zhuan knew that many human cultivators in the Xianmi heavenly realm must know. Zhuan thought of the Dao-confirming realm master who died in the blood-red cliff. He didn't know if this master was a cultivator from the Xianmi heavenly realm or a native of the 8 heavens. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that the ancient desolate heavenly realm also has a passage that leads directly to the 8 heavens, but that passage was sealed countless years ago by the Almighty of the Xianmi heavenly realm with the Door of Profundity. The Door of Profundity is extremely mysterious and is extremely effective against non-human cultivators. Even the Almighty of the ancient desolate heavenly realm are extremely afraid of the Door of Profundity, let alone breaking it open. If human cultivators were to attack it, it would be much easier because the Door of Profundity doesn't defend against human cultivators, but the alien races of the ancient desolate heavenly realm. Speaking up to here, Bloodscale sighed softly and said, back then, I also tried to find the Door of Profundity in the ancient desolate heavenly realm to try my luck and enter the 8 heavens. However, the Door of Profundity is extremely hidden, so in the end, I couldn't find it and could only leave it unsettled. Zhuowen's face suddenly changed. He was all too familiar with the Door of Profundity. Back then, he found it in the 6 Desires heavenly realm. Later, in order to capture him, Palace Master Wujue gathered the lords of the other heavens and jointly broke open the Door of Profundity. Later, Yuezu also said that Palace Master Wujue was killed by Sakyamune, and the 4 lords of the heavens, Yamazi, Xiao Yaozi, Immeasurable Photon, and Old Lord Tusida, mysteriously disappeared. The 6 Desires heavenly realm was invaded by a strange beast. Now, connecting this to what Bloodscale said, Zhuowen more or less understood the general situation. It seems that what Bloodscale said is not wrong. The other side of the Door of Profundity is definitely the great desolate heavenly realm. Out of curiosity, Old Lord Tusida and the other 3 stepped into the great desolate heavenly realm, but they didn't expect that it wasn't the 9th heaven they dreamed of, but the great desolate heavenly realm that was full of hatred towards the human race. Sakyamune was probably a cautious person, so she didn't enter the barrier rashly. In addition, Sakyamune's ambition was not small. When he found out that Tusida Elder had left, he had set his sights on the heavenly domain origin of the other heavens. Therefore, he had killed Palace Master Wujue immediately, wanting to seize the heavenly domain origin of the 6 Desires heavenly domain. And because the Door of Profundity had been blasted open, The invasion of the Six Desires' heavenly realm by strange beasts was also a reasonable explanation. Thinking of this, Jun felt a little irritated. He knew that the other side of the door of profundity really was the great desolate heavenly realm. As time passed, more and more strange races would enter the eight heavens, and there might even be Tao-confirming powerhouses. When that time came, it would really be a huge disaster for the eight heavens. Bloodscale's ability to read people's expressions was not small. Seeing Zhuowen's strange expression, he asked, "You know about the door of profundity?" Zhuowen didn't answer directly, but asked in a deep voice, "You also said that the starry sky energy of the eight heavens is extremely scarce. Would the powerhouses of the great desolate heavenly realm be interested in the eight heavens?" Bloodscale sneered, "The eight heavens are nothing in the eyes of true powerhouses. They wouldn't even pay attention to them. But on the other side of the eight heavens is a natural moat, and on the other side of the natural moat is the Xianmi heavenly realm." Zhuowen became more and more gloomy. Although Bloodscale didn't say it explicitly, Zhuowen knew that the eight heavens would definitely be noticed by the powerhouses of the great desolate heavenly realm because of the geography of the eight heavens. This was a necessary place to invade the Xianmi heavenly realm. "What? You found the door of profundity?" Bloodscale narrowed his eyes and asked. Zhuowen took a deep breath and said, "Yes, 50 years ago, I found the door of profundity. Later, it was blasted open by the combined efforts of the Lords of the Heavens." Bloodscale's expression immediately became serious. "Then your eight heavens are really finished. You said that the entrance of the door of profundity is extremely well hidden. In these 50 years, I haven't heard of any foreign powerhouses appearing. There shouldn't be any powerhouses entering the eight heavens so quickly, right?" Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Bloodscale nodded. "The entrance of the door of profundity is indeed well hidden, but paper can never wrap fire. Once a true powerhouse enters the eight heavens, the human race of the eight heavens will all be finished. This is not an exaggeration." Zhuowen frowned slightly. Although he wasn't a great saint who cared about the world, he was still a member of the eight heavens. Now that he knew that the eight heavens were about to face a calamity, he naturally had a compassionate heart. "If you want to protect the eight heavens, I think you have to pass this news to the Xianmi heavenly domain. Only by having the Xianmi heavenly domain's experts come and repair the door of profundity will you be able to avoid this calamity. However, I feel that this possibility is very small." Bloodscale gloated. Zhuowen felt helpless. He wasn't a cultivator of the Xianmi heavenly domain, nor was he a Tao affirmation expert. He couldn't cross the chasm at all. Even if he had the ability to cross the chasm, it was still unknown whether the Xianmi heavenly domain would believe his words. However, Yun had the Devourer King's clone, so he wasn't too worried about himself. If the eight heavens really suffered a great calamity, Yun would take all of his friends and family into the Devourer King's inner world and appear as the Devourer King. As long as it wasn't a human cultivator, Yun believed that the experts of the great desolate heavenly domain wouldn't do anything to him. Of course, that was the last resort. He had no choice but to protect the people he knew. However, there was still time. Therefore, he would still think of ways to prevent this calamity from happening. "Let's go. Follow me to a place first." Zhuowen didn't say anything else. Instead, he brought Bloodscale and left the starry sky fault. This time, Zhuowen wanted to go to the northern universe. When he first arrived at the border of the northern universe from the eastern universe Heavenly Devil Island, he encountered the danger zone formed by the battle between Mu Chenxue and Great Brahma. It was also because of this danger zone that Zhuowen accidentally entered a strange small world of ice and snow. In the center of that world of ice and snow, Zhuowen met Ma Yujie for the first time. Not only that, but he also saw countless strange beasts in the ice tower of that small world. At the top of the ice tower, he saw the devouring race and the dragon race, as well as Ma Yujie, who was sandwiched between the two beasts. Back then, Owen was very surprised by the strange beasts sealed in the ice tower. He had never seen any of them before. Now, he knew that these strange beasts were most likely from the great desolate heavenly domain. Chapter 25:17. Blood Goo. This time, Nguyen came here again to enter the world of ice and snow again. He felt that the small world of ice and snow should not be simple. Perhaps he could find something on a deeper level inside. The danger zone left behind by the battle between Great Brahma and Muchinshue had disappeared. After all, the aftermath of the battle between the two powerhouses could not last forever. It would gradually dissipate with the passage of time. After carefully searching the place where he found the small world several times, Zhuan discovered with an ugly expression that he could no longer find any traces of the small world, let alone the entrance to the small world. Someone must have tampered with this place. There were spatial fluctuations here, but now it seems that someone has deliberately erased them, Blood Scale said indifferently as his gaze fell on Zhuan. Zhuan sighed lightly. He didn't have to guess to know that Ma Yujie had probably done something to the minor world, and it was probably for the sake of preventing him, Zhuan, from entering the minor world once more and finding out Ma Yujie's identity. Come with me to another place. Yun did not speak nonsense. He summoned the space-time wheel and left with Blood Scale again. This time, he went to the Sun-Moon Lake in the depths of the Cloudy Moon Lake in the far west. When he entered the Sun-Moon Lake with Ma Yujie, he found a one-way teleportation array. Then, the two of them were teleported into a strange small world. It was also in that small world that Zhuan discovered the blood-stained cliff and came into contact with the fallen Tao-confirming powerhouse. He had once promised the mysterious head in the river of space-time quicksand that he would bring back his left eye and heart within 100 years. Now that 100 years was almost up, and Zhuan's strength was indeed much stronger, he naturally could not go back on his promise. Zhuan was very fast. It only took him half a month to reach the periphery of the Cloudy Moon Lake in the far west. The two of them went all the way in. The star beasts in the depths of the Cloudy Moon Lake posed no obstacle to them at all. Instead, they were like cannon fodder that were easily dealt with by Zhuan and Blood Scale. After arriving at the Sun-Moon Lake, Zhuan wanted Blood Scale to wait for him outside while he went in alone. However, Blood Scale's eyes blazed as he said, "This lake is adjacent to a small world. In my perception, that small world has something I need. I must go in with you." Zhuan was startled and immediately said gloomily, "The things in that small world must be mine. You have no right to take them." Blood Scale did not care. "Blood Scale, Blood Scale, blood," he said. "Scale, Blood Scale, blood, Blood Scale, scale, Blood Scale, scale, Blood Scale, Blood Scale, spirit, Blood Scale." Zhuan thought for a moment and agreed to let Blood Scale go in with him. After going deep into the Sun-Moon Lake, Zhuan followed his memory and found the stone tablet that he and Ma Yujie had found together. The stone tablet was a one-way teleportation array that could only be activated by a Level 9 Divine Formation Master. Zhuan had just become a Level 9 Divine Formation Master, so the one-way teleportation array was not a problem for him. After spending half a day, Zhuan activated the one-way teleportation array. Then, a white light flashed and he and Blood Scale disappeared on the spot. What appeared in front of Zhuan was a familiar valley. When he and Ma Yujie were first teleported here, they had appeared in this valley. Back then, the valley was filled with countless starry sky divine veins. Unfortunately, Zhuan and Ma Yujie had divided them all. Now, apart from the scattered stars in the surroundings, the valley was completely deserted. Zhuan's gaze immediately fell on a path at the end of the valley that led deeper into the valley. Whether it was the valley or the path that led to the end, they were all formed by the void of starry sky energy. They were almost one with the starry sky. It was difficult to distinguish the difference between the valley, the path, and the starry sky with the naked eye, but a cultivator's consciousness could see the difference. Zhuan and Blood Scale stepped onto the path of the starry sky and quickly rushed forward. Back then, Zhuan's cultivation was not high, so he walked very slowly on the path of the starry sky. However, today was different. He was many times stronger than before, so he was not afraid of the stars that might fall on the path of the starry sky. Sure enough, when Zhuan and Blood Scale reached the second half of the path of the starry sky, huge fireball-shaped stars came from the depths of the starry sky and smashed directly in front of the two of them. Zhuan took out the king's sword and slashed out. A terrifying sword chi swept out and turned into thousands of sword chi. Each sword chi could accurately destroy a star, causing the stars to completely explode into nothingness before they could fall in front of them. After destroying the stars, the two of them passed through the path of the starry sky unimpeded and arrived at the end of the path. After walking out of the path of the starry sky, they saw a huge white arch. The arch was hollow, and at the end of the stone arch was a huge blood-stained cliff. However, this blood-stained cliff was much shorter than the one Zhuowen had seen when he first entered. He knew that this should be the result of the battle between the soul of the true dragon and the left eye of the Tao-confirming powerhouse. Zhuowen and Bloodscale arrived at the true dragon blood pool in front of the cliff. He recalled the countless disgusting blood-red insects and the heart that had crawled out of the pool of blood and felt somewhat traumatized. However, he also knew that the true dragon blood in the true dragon blood pool was genuine and could not be faked. It really is the true dragon blood. This thing has a huge effect on my recovery. Let me have the true dragon blood. Bloodscale immediately said. Zhuowen coldly glanced at Bloodscale and said, "We'll split it in half, and you need to help me destroy the soul of the true dragon at the bottom of the pool." Bloodscale frowned slightly, but in the end he agreed to Zhuowen's conditions and the two of them jumped into the true dragon blood pool. After a while, the true dragon blood pool suddenly boiled, and a terrifying amount of blood soared into the sky. Then, a huge heart floated out of the pool of blood. However, countless blood-red insects connected together around the heart, turning into an extremely strange chain that firmly locked the heart in place. Thump, thump, thump. A powerful heartbeat sounded in this space, giving off an extremely oppressive feeling. "Give me back my heart. Give me back my eyes. Give me back my arms. Give me back my legs. Give me back everything." The same mournful voice rang out above the blood pool the moment the heart appeared. Thump thump. Two wretched figures burst out from the blood pool and hurriedly flew back. Following closely behind these two figures was an incomparably huge dragon head. If one looked carefully, the surface of the dragon head was also composed of countless blood-red insects, which was extremely disgusting. Chapter 25:18. Repelling the blood parasite. Blood parasite? Zhuowen looked at the countless blood-colored worms in the real dragon blood pool in surprise. It was the first time he had heard of the so-called blood parasite. It's understandable that you don't know. The blood parasite is a method of the sorcerer tribe in the untainted land. Although it is not the most powerful parasite used by the sorcerer tribe, it is the most difficult to deal with. Speaking of this, Bloodscale's eyes flashed with fear. Apparently, he was extremely afraid of the sorcerer tribe. Bloodscale continued, "Fortunately, there are not many blood parasites in the real dragon blood pool. I once saw the entire planet in the untainted land filled with blood parasites. All the creatures on the planet became food for the blood parasites. Even an expert at the second step of the doctrine realm would be seriously injured and die if he entered the planet." "The second step of the doctrine realm?" Zhuowen asked doubtfully. However, as soon as he finished his question, the dragon head formed by the blood parasite roared and rushed over. Moreover, there was an endless stream of blood parasites gushing out from the real dragon blood pool and gathering behind the dragon head's neck. Upon closer inspection, the blood parasites were constantly combining into a huge dragon body behind the dragon head. "I'll tell you about the doctrine realm later. Let's get rid of this beast first." Bloodscale roared and revealed his true body. Scarlet scales covered his body, making him look extremely ferocious and strange. Zhuowen did not dare to lower his guard. With a flip of his right hand, he took out the king's sword. With a swoosh, the sword swept across the space and distorted the space-time. Zhuowen used the last move of the Tao destruction sword art, the Big Bang technique. Unfortunately, the power of the Big Bang technique was limited and could only make the blood dragon stagnate for half a breath. However, half a breath was enough. Bloodscale roared and slammed his claw on the blood dragon's head, smashing it into pieces. However, Bloodscale's face was extremely solemn and he quickly retreated. The moment Bloodscale retreated, the dragon head that had been blasted to smithereens was enveloped by countless blood goo and reformed into a brand new blood dragon head. The blood parasites are too small a target. When I attacked the dragon's head, the blood parasites immediately dispersed. If I hadn't retreated just now, I would have been surrounded by the blood parasites and would have been in danger, Blood Scale said in a low voice. Zhuowen's face darkened. Doesn't that mean the blood parasite can't be killed? Even if a Dao-confirming expert is here, they still can't kill the blood goo? Blood Scale said, if it were a Dao-confirming expert, they would naturally be able to exterminate such a small amount of blood insects. After all, Dao-confirming experts possess powerful heavenly Dao origin energy and can directly destroy the foundation of the blood insects. However, you and I are currently too weak to destroy the foundation of the blood insects with a single strike. If the foundation of the blood insects is not destroyed, then they will grow again like weeds in the spring wind, which is extremely annoying. However, the blood insects are not without weaknesses. After all, they are insects and are innately afraid of fire. However, it is not an ordinary fire. You must have a strong enough flame, otherwise, it will backfire. Zhuan was startled and immediately remembered the alchemic fire on his body. This alchemic fire was extraordinary. It was the flame used by the alchemic fire emperor when he was alive. After all, the alchemic fire emperor was a Dao-confirming expert, so the alchemic fire he used must be extraordinary. Blood Scale, step back first. I have a flame on me that you can try. Zhuan stopped Blood Scale, who was about to attack again. Blood Scale was startled and immediately shook his head. He was well aware of the blood insect's strength. Although the blood insects were afraid of fire, they were not afraid of ordinary flames. Although Zhuowen's strength was indeed quite strong, Zhuowen was born in a small place like the Eight Heavens. How could he obtain such a powerful flame in such a small place? Although Blood Scale did not believe in Zhuowen, he still stepped aside. He wanted to see what kind of flame Zhuowen would take out. Of course, he was also happy to see Zhuowen's defeated appearance. The moment Blood Scale stepped back, Zhuowen took out his alchemic fire. At this moment, the alchemic fire was completely inseparable from his clone. Especially after his clone had advanced to the third extreme realm, the alchemic fire was even more dependent on his clone. The second elder of the Pill Tower was right. The third extreme energy was very beneficial to the alchemic fire. Now that his clone had advanced to the third extreme realm, the alchemic fire was almost unwilling to leave. If the second elder of the Pill Tower knew about this, he would probably cry but have no tears. If he wanted the alchemic fire to return to the Pill Tower in the future, he would have to directly ask Zhuowen's clone to take charge of the Pill Tower. However, the Pill Tower was also in the Six Desires Heavenly Realm. Zhuowen thought of the situation in the Six Desires Heavenly Realm and wondered how the second elder of the Pill Tower was doing. Under Zhuowen's control, the alchemic fire turned into a whirlpool of flames that filled the sky. It swept out violently and instantly enveloped the blood dragon. Sizzle! 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 Zhuowen was pleasantly surprised to find that the blood insects had been roasted into a charred state under the terrifying alchemic fire. The blood dragon, which was originally full of momentum, suddenly collapsed and completely collapsed. The remaining blood insects let out a shrill cry and burrowed into the blood pool to hide. Blood Scale was dumbfounded. He originally thought that Zhuowen would definitely make a fool of himself. He didn't expect that this young man would be so powerful and have such a terrifying alchemic fire on his body. It instantly destroyed the troublesome blood insects. Blood Scale took a deep look at the alchemic fire that had turned into a ball of flame and landed in Zhuowen's palm. He said, "Your alchemic fire is not ordinary. I didn't expect that there would be such a powerful alchemic fire in the Eight Heavens." Zhuowen smiled slightly but didn't explain the origin of the alchemic fire. To be honest, he didn't know the specific origin of the alchemic fire. Zhuowen didn't even know what realm the owner of the alchemic fire, the Emperor Alchemic Fire, was in. Seeing that Zhuowen didn't explain in detail, Blood Scale also knew that the latter didn't want to say more. His gaze fell on the heart floating above the blood pool. Due to the alchemic fire's power, the other blood insects that were binding the heart quietly retreated into the blood pool of the real dragon, so the heart was now completely free of its bindings. At the same time, in the abyss of the blood-stained cliff, a blood eye flew out and suddenly landed on the heart. The depths of the blood eye's eyes revealed a human-like joy. "I have found your heads." According to the agreement, you will enter my spirit ring first. I will take you to see your other body parts, Zhuowen said lightly. He was not afraid that the mysterious eyeball would attack him. After all, he had made an agreement with the mysterious head, and he had allowed the mysterious head to leave its aura on him. The mysterious eyeball could sense his aura, so it naturally would not be hostile towards him. Chapter 25:19. Miao Bang's memory. A hint of hesitation appeared in the mysterious eyeball's eyes. Just as Zhuan had said, it had indeed sensed a familiar aura from the white-clothed youth in front of it. After a moment of hesitation, the mysterious eyeball let out a whistle and plunged into Zhuowen's spirit ring with the heart. Seeing the mysterious eyeball and heart disappear into the spirit ring, Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief. His gaze fell on the abyss below the blood-stained cliff where the mysterious eyeball was located. Back then, he knew that Ma Yujie had obtained a lot of Dao fruits in the abyss. Although he didn't know whether Ma Yujie had taken all the things in there, he had to go down and take a look. There are still blood insects in the true dragon blood pool. Do you think we should get rid of all of them first? Bloodscale said with a mischievous smile. Although Bloodscale's strength was not bad, it was a pity that the blood insects were too difficult to deal with. Even if most of them were destroyed by the alchemy fire, Bloodscale was still somewhat afraid. After all, if he entered the blood pool to absorb the true dragon blood and was disturbed by the blood insects, it would be a very troublesome matter. The blood insects should have a queen insect, right? Zhuan recalled the blood insects' tacit understanding when they attacked them and guessed that there must be something controlling them. Yes, the queen insect should be hiding in the depths of the blood pool. You must use your alchemy fire to deal with the queen insect. As for me, I won't be of any use at all. Bloodscale said with a mischievous smile. Okay, but the distribution of the true dragon blood is 60% for me and 40% for you, Zhuowen said indifferently. Bloodscale secretly cursed Zhuowen's black-hearted heart. He could only helplessly say, if you get rid of the queen insect, I'll accept this distribution. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded and released his doppelganger. The doppelganger landed on the edge of the blood pool, while his original body dived into the blood pool. The reason why he left his clone at the edge of the blood pool was to prevent this Bloodscale from entering the blood pool to absorb the true dragon's blood while he was dealing with the insect queen. The true dragon's blood was difficult to take away, but it was still possible to cultivate in the blood pool. Back then, if it weren't for the mysterious eyeball and the blood goo, Zhuowen and Ma Yujie would have cultivated in the true dragon blood pool for a period of time before leaving. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. After going deep into the true dragon blood pool for roughly 10 breaths of time, Zhuowen arrived at the bottom of the pool. His powerful divine sense swept out and carefully swept through the scene at the bottom of the pool. Soon, Zhuowen locked onto the bottom of the blood pool. On the left side of the pool, there was a cave half the height of a person. This cave was very well hidden, but Zhuowen's divine sense could easily discover that there was a pair of blood-red eyes staring at him inside. Perhaps discovering Zhuowen's divine sense, the owner of the blood-red eyes let out a roar. Suddenly, the surrounding water splashed as thousands of blood goo condensed into a sharp blood arrow and shot toward Zhuowen's heart. Zhuowen coldly snorted and immediately summoned his pill fire. Although he was in the blood pool, his pill fire was not an ordinary flame and could still grow and multiply endlessly in the blood pool. The moment the blood arrow formed by the blood goo touched the pill fire, it was immediately burned to ashes. Then, the owner of the blood-red eyes in the depths of the cave let out an even sharper howl. However, in this howl, Zhuowen could hear the fear in the voice. Obviously, the owner of the blood-red eyes began to fear Zhuowen. Die for me! Zhuowen stretched out his right hand and suddenly, a giant hand made of divine force appeared and grabbed the insect queen hidden in the depths of the cave. Zhuowen took a closer look and found that the insect queen was half the size of a person. However, its body was round and fat, reminding Zhuowen of maggots on rotten meat, and this insect queen was an enlarged version of those maggots. At this moment, the insect queen was constantly struggling under the restraint of the divine force hand, and at the same time, it let out an extremely harsh and disgusting sound. Zhuowen frowned and suddenly exerted force, and the fat insect queen was completely annihilated into nothingness. After dealing with the insect queen, Zhuan planned to leave, but his divine sense did indeed sweep over a golden bead. This golden bead just happened to be suspended in the position where the insect queen was annihilated. Zhuan knew that this golden bead should be inside the insect queen's body. Being able to remain intact under the destruction of his divine force meant that this golden bead was not simple. With a stroke of his right hand, Zhuan took out the golden bead and carefully looked at it, a cautious look in his eyes. He found that he could not see through this golden bead, so he tried to explore it with his divine sense. Suddenly, Zhuan felt a rumbling explosion in his knowledge sea, and he spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale. Then, the golden bead turned into a golden torrent and sank into the depths of Zhuowen's eyebrows. The reason why Zhuowen spat out blood was because this golden torrent contained an extremely large amount of information flow. This information flow was too complicated and huge, and it was filled with too many memories. Although Zhuowen's divine sense was strong, even so, Zhuan almost couldn't bear it. This is the memory of the blood parasite's master. After Zhuowen calmed down, he immediately knew that the golden bead was probably a memory left by an expert. He roughly checked it and found that it was the memory of the blood parasite's master. This golden bead recorded the blood parasite's master from the beginning of his cultivation to his death. From this memory, Zhuowen found out that the blood parasite's master was called Miao Bang, an expert of the sorcerer tribe. From this memory, the sorcerer tribe's cultivation method was completely different from the human tribes. Although Zhuowen was born in the 8 heavens, the 8 heavens were the territory of the human tribe after all. The cultivation method was inherited from the Xian Mi heavenly region. The human tribe's cultivation method was to comprehend the way of heaven and use the way of heaven to verify themselves, so that they could achieve the unity of heaven and man. Especially after proving one's way, it was closely related to the way of heaven. However, the sorcerer tribe was completely different. The sorcerer tribe completely believed in their own strength. In order to pursue strength, the sorcerer tribe planted venomous insects in their bodies from a young age and achieved a state of symbiosis with the venomous insects. If the venomous insects were powerful, the sorcerer tribe would naturally be powerful. Of course, this cultivation was also related to the level of the venomous insects. The higher the level of the venomous insects, the higher the level of cultivation in the future. In Miao Bang's memory, Zhuowen found that the 12 most powerful experts of the sorcerer tribe had appeared in the history of the sorcerer tribe. These 12 experts of the sorcerer tribe were called the 12 ancestors of the sorcerer tribe. The 12 ancestors of the sorcerer tribe were closely related to the origin of the untainted heavenly region, and the cultivation method of the sorcerer tribe was inherited from the 12 ancestors of the sorcerer tribe. It was said that the 12 ancestors of the sorcerer tribe had the 12 most powerful venomous insects in their bodies. It was these powerful venomous insects that created the 12 ancestors of the sorcerer tribe and also made the 12 ancestors of the sorcerer tribe a legend in the untainted heavenly region. Miao Bang inadvertently obtained information about the venomous insect of Zhurong, one of the 12 ancestors of the sorcerer tribe, and it was said that the venomous insect of Zhurong was in the 8 heavens. In order to find the venomous insect of Zhurong, Miao Bang took the risk to leave the untainted heavenly region and entered the extraterritorial starry sky. Chapter 25-20. Zhurong Gu. Miao Bang was very patient. After entering the 8 heavens, he did not openly search for the Zhurong Gu. Instead, he slowly adapted to the 8 heavens and searched for it secretly. He clearly understood that the Zhurong Gu was too important. If anyone found out about it, whether it was the prehistorical heavenly realm or the Xianmi heavenly realm, he would become the public enemy of all cultivators. By then, he would definitely die. Therefore, the search for the Zhurong Gu had to be carried out secretly without any mishaps. Miao Bang was indeed careful enough. In the end, he found traces of the Zhurong Gu. Unfortunately, before he could make a move, he failed and died under traceless blood's blade. In Miao Bang's memory, the last scene that Zhuowen saw was a blood blade hanging high in the sky. It was like a blood sun, releasing endless bloody light and sharpness. Miao Bang finally activated the blood goo and blasted it on Traceless Blood's body. Then, he was cut down by the blood blade and his consciousness fell into eternal darkness. Zhuan slowly opened his eyes. His gaze flickered. He did not expect Miao Bang to be from the Wu clan. In Miao Bang's memory, Traceless Blood was very strong. Especially the blade before Miao Bang died. It was too terrifying. Even Zhuan could not help but break out in cold sweat. Miao Bang had undoubtedly fallen. The true dragon blood in the true dragon blood pool was Miao Bang's mount. It was a low-level dragon in the ancient desolate continent that Miao Bang had tamed. Of course, even a low-level dragon in the ancient desolate heavenly domain would be a peak expert in the 8 heavens. It seems that the owner of the mysterious heart and eyeball should be Traceless Blood. I wonder where Traceless Blood came from? Zhuan muttered to himself. Although he had only seen Traceless Blood's blade in Miao Bang's memory, he knew that Traceless Blood was definitely not an ordinary Dao-confirming expert. Of course, Yun was not clear about the Dao-confirming realm. He had never seen a real Dao-confirming expert. Therefore, he could not judge the specific strength of Traceless Blood and Miao Bang. In Miao Bang's memory, there was only information about the cultivation realms of the Wu tribe. He was not very clear about the cultivation realms of the human tribe. Therefore, although Zhuan had obtained Miao Bang's memory, he was still not clear about the cultivation realms of the human tribe. Of course, the thing that Zhuan coveted the most in Miao Bang's memories was the Zhu Ronggu. If Zhuan had not seen the memories of the Miao tribe, he might not have felt anything about the Zhu Ronggu. But now that he had inherited Miao Bang's memories, he knew how precious the Zhu Ronggu was. The venomous insects of Zhu Rong were the venomous insects of the 12 ancestors of sorcery. Ever since the 12 ancestors of sorcery had fallen one after another, their venomous insects had been scattered all over the boundless starry sky. Countless creatures in the untainted heavenly domain had tried to find the venomous insects of the 12 ancestral sorcerers, but to no avail. However, if one could obtain the goo of the 12 grand wizards, it was said that there was a possibility of becoming a new grand wizard. It should be known that anyone who could become an ancestral wizard was at least an existence that stood at the peak of the untainted heavenly realm. How valuable was that? And if one could obtain the goo insect of the ancestral wizard, it meant that one's future was limitless. Although Zhuan was not from the sorcerer clan, he was also tempted by the Zhurong goo. After all, this thing was a treasure. Although he was only from the human clan and might not be able to use the Zhurong goo to cultivate, he might be able to use it in the future. Moreover, the location of the Zhurong goo was clearly recorded in Miao Bang's memories. It was actually in the Wuji Taishu of the Huaxia heavenly domain. It just so happened that Zhuan was planning to go to the Wuji Taishu to look for the Great Void Bone Refining Ginseng, the 8 trigrams divining Yang Water, and the Great Simplicity Double Dragon Ganoderma. When the time came, he would go to the Wuji Taishu to look for the Zhurong goo. After Zhuan left the true dragon blood pool, Blood Scale looked at Zhuan strangely and said, "Why did you go down for so long? Did you find a treasure down there?" Zhuan shrugged and said, "That insect queen is extremely cunning. I spent a lot of time looking for it, so..." Blood Scale pursed his lips. Although he knew that this was Zhuan's excuse, he couldn't say anything. After all, Yun had a flame that could restrain the blood goo, but he didn't. "By the way, you said that this true dragon blood is very useful to you. What about my Devourer King clone?" Zhuan suddenly asked. Blood Scale glanced at Zhuan's clone and said indifferently, "Every Devourer King's bloodline is unique. My Devourer King bloodline is of the blood attribute and can absorb the blood essence of powerful exotic beasts to cultivate. On the other hand, your Devourer King bloodline is of the metal attribute. Absorbing the true dragon blood will probably backfire. It's better to let your human body absorb the true dragon blood. It's just that it's a bit of a waste to let you absorb the true dragon blood because you can't absorb 100% of the true dragon blood's energy. It will only cause unnecessary waste. But it's different for me." Zhuan didn't bother to talk nonsense with Blood Scale. He jumped into the blood pool and formed a seal with both hands. He set up a restriction around 3/5 of the blood pool, dividing it into 2 sections. Regardless of whether it would be a waste to absorb the true dragon blood, Zhuan wouldn't give the benefits of the true dragon blood to Bloodscale. After all, the last time he absorbed a trace of the true dragon blood, it was enough to strengthen his human body. Now that he had absorbed so much true dragon blood, his physical body was bound to reach a new height. The corners of Bloodscale's mouth twitched. He could only follow Zhuowen's instructions and jump into the other side of the blood pool that Zhuowen had divided. He also began to concentrate on absorbing the true dragon blood and began to restore his strength. While the main body and Bloodscale were concentrating on cultivating in the blood pool, the black-clothed Zhuowen, who was standing at the edge of the blood pool, quietly jumped into the abyss of the blood-stained cliff. The abyss below the blood-stained cliff was pitch black. As soon as the black-clothed Zhuowen entered, he released his divine sense and began to scan the space inside the abyss. What surprised the black-clothed Zhuowen was that the space inside the abyss was extremely vast, as if it was a boundless void. After descending for an hour, his divine sense finally noticed a tree at the very bottom of the valley. This tree was blood-red in color. Its trunk wasn't as thick as he had imagined. Instead, it was extremely slender. Zhuowen could clearly feel that this blood tree had a powerful circulation of Dao rhymes. Moreover, this circulation of Dao rhymes was no stranger to Zhuowen. It was exactly the same as the 4 Dao fruits that Ma Yujie had given him. It seems that the Dao fruits that Ma Yujie obtained should be from this blood tree. Looking at the empty branches on the blood tree, he knew that Ma Yujie must have plucked all the Dao fruits on this blood tree back then. Although this blood tree wasn't thick, it wasn't small either. Its dense branches could grow at least 20 to 30 Dao fruits. Chapter 25-21. The 3 steps of Dao verification. Landing beside the blood tree, Zhuowen was pleasantly surprised to find that the Dao rhyme within the blood tree was extremely powerful. Being under the blood tree, his understanding of the heavenly Dao had deepened. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, the blood of the heavenly Dao in Zhuowen's spirit ring burst out and was absorbed by the blood tree. The blood of the heavenly Dao in Zhuowen's spirit ring was obtained from the ruins of the Luotian Palace in the far west. It was formed from the Luotian Palace's understanding of the heavenly Dao. Zhuowen was caught off guard and the blood of the heavenly Dao was absorbed by the blood tree. However, Zhuowen soon found that after the blood tree absorbed the blood of the heavenly Dao, Zhuowen discovered that a Dao fruit the size of a longan had formed on the thin branches of the blood tree. This Dao fruit was too different from the 4 Dao fruits that Ma Yujie had given him back then. He knew that the Luotian Palace's blood of the heavenly Dao was too weak, causing the Dao fruit formed by the blood tree to be too weak. This should be a Dao tree. The mysterious eyeball has been staying here for a long time, so its Dao aura must have stayed here for a long time. That's why a Dao tree surrounded by Dao aura was born here, Zhuowen guessed. Thinking of this, Zhuowen became excited. Compared to a Dao fruit, a Dao tree that could produce Dao fruits was naturally more precious. I wonder if I can replant this Dao tree? Zhuowen muttered to himself. Then, he uprooted the Dao tree and swallowed it into his inner world. However, Zhuowen soon found that the moment the Dao tree was replanted, the Dao rhyme on its body was rapidly draining away. Seeing this, Zhuowen was so frightened that he immediately placed the Dao tree back where it was. He no longer dared to replant it casually. After the Dao tree was replanted, the Dao rhyme on its body gradually slowed down and finally stopped. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief, but his face was a little ugly. No wonder the cunning Ma Yujie didn't move the Dao tree back then. It turned out that the Dao tree couldn't be moved at all. Once it was moved, the Dao rhyme on its body would slowly fade away and it would eventually become an ordinary tree without Dao rhyme. Sigh. Let's refine phagocytosis under the Dao tree first. Zhuowen shook his head. Unable to think of a good solution, he simply sat down under the Dao tree and took out the phagocytosis and the only 2 Dao fruits he had. Although the Dao tree's Dao rhyme was vast, it wasn't very effective for the black-clothed Zhuowen who had already reached the 3 extremities. Moreover, his main body was currently soaking in the true dragon's blood in the blood pool, so he could only refine the phagocytosis. The phagocytosis had a total of 9,999 seals. Zhuowen had already cracked more than 7,000 seals, but the seals behind were getting harder and harder to crack. Each seal was extremely taxing and time-consuming to crack. Juan had a total of 4 Tao fruits on him. 2 of them had already been refined and integrated into the phagocytosis, while the other 2 were still with him. Now that he had time, Juan planned to integrate the remaining 2 Tao fruits into the phagocytosis. Back then, because too few seals had been cracked on the phagocytosis, and Juan was too weak at the time, he could only integrate 2 Tao fruits at most. Now, more than 7,000 seals had been cracked on the phagocytosis, and Juan's strength was no longer the same as before. Now, it was more than enough to integrate the remaining 2 Tao fruits into the phagocytosis. Thinking of this, the black-clothed Juan sat cross-legged under the Tao tree and bathed in the rich Tao rime. Immediately, he formed a seal with both hands and began to refine the remaining 2 Tao fruits. Soon, Juan was surprised to find that under the Tao tree, the refining speed of the Tao fruits was much faster than usual. Thinking of this, Juan immediately sped up the refining speed, and his eyes revealed a look of excitement. Time slowly passed and 10 days passed. Under the blood tree, the black-clothed Juan stood up. He held the phagocytosis in his right hand, and the 2 Tao fruits had completely disappeared. After 10 days, I finally refined the 2 Tao fruits into the phagocytosis. Juan looked at the rich Tao rime on the surface of the phagocytosis in his palm, and his eyes could not hide the excitement in them. At this moment, the power of the phagocytosis was different from before. It was much, much more powerful. 2 streams of light swept over the abyss and landed not far from the Tao tree. The 2 figures were the white-clothed youth and the red-clothed middle-aged man. They were naturally Juan's original body and blood scale. In 10 days, the original body and blood scale had absorbed all the true dragon blood in the true dragon blood pool into their bodies. What made Juan sigh was that blood scale was right. The true dragon blood was far more beneficial to blood scale than the original body. Even with 60% of the true dragon blood, Juan could only refine his physique to the level of Devourer King. However, after absorbing 40% of the true dragon blood scale's strength had actually recovered to the life and death extremities. This greatly surprised Juan, and he also believed what blood scale had said. It's a Tao tree. I didn't think there would be a Tao tree at the bottom of the cliff. It's a pity that the Tao fruits on this Tao tree have all been plucked, Shui Lin said as he looked at the Tao tree behind Juan. The black-clothed Juan slowly landed beside the original body with the phagocytosis in his hand and merged with the original body. Blood scale, can you tell me the specific realms of Tao vindication now? Juan asked Blood scale. Blood scale nodded. Even if Juan hadn't asked, he had planned to tell Juan. After all, he had promised Juan before. In the primitive heaven realm, apart from the shaman race's unique cultivation method, the realms of the other races are no different from the human race. There are 3 steps to Tao vindication, and each step has 3 realms. Blood Scale's voice became deeper as he continued. The first step of Tao vindication has 3 realms: Heavenly Tao Master, Tao Origin Master, and Chaos Origin Master. The second step of Tao vindication also has 3 realms: Heaven's Will Master, Profound Master, and Eternal Master. I don't know the specific realms of the third step of Tao vindication, but the third step of Tao vindication is extremely close to breaking through the heavens. Even in the primitive heaven realm, there are very few third step Tao vindication experts. Juan's eyes flashed. When he had obtained the first move of the tyrannical Tao slaughtering technique, the slaughtering Tao finger, it had introduced that the slaughtering Tao finger could kill the heavenly Tao master. He had thought that the so-called heavenly Tao master would be very strong, but it turned out that it was only the first realm of the first step of Tao vindication. However, when he remembered that he hadn't even reached Tao vindication, Juan's spirits were lifted. He knew that the slaughtering Tao finger was actually very powerful. Moreover, the slaughtering Tao finger was only the first move of the 3 moves of the tyrannical Tao slaughtering technique. If Juan was lucky enough to find the last 2 moves of the tyrannical Tao slaughtering technique, their power would probably be even more terrifying. Blood Scale, what was your peak cultivation level? Juan asked in a deep voice. Blood Scale frowned slightly and sighed. In the primitive heaven realm, my peak cultivation level was only the first step of Tao vindication. However, I was very close to the second step and was much stronger than the average Chaos Origin Master. Chapter 25-22. Black Smoke Race. After understanding the realm of Dao validation, Zhuowen pointed at the Dao tree and asked, Bloodscale, do you have a way to transplant this Dao tree without it dying? Bloodscale glanced at the Dao tree indifferently and said, even if you don't transplant it, this Dao tree will wither in less than 20 years. Zhuowen's eyes lit up and he asked, why? The reason this Dao tree can grow here should be because of the eyeball from before. If I'm not wrong, that eyeball belongs to an extremely powerful Dao validation expert. Just like ordinary trees, if they don't have nutrients, they will naturally wither and die. This Dao tree is the same. Once the mysterious eyeball leaves the Dao tree, it won't have the Dao aura of a Dao validation expert to nurture it. It's only a matter of time before this Dao tree withers. Of course, you can use the Heavenly Dao Origin to transplant this Dao tree. Don't you have the Heavenly Dao Origin on you? Bloodscale glanced at Zhuowen and said. Zhuowen nodded in understanding but hesitated. He did have the Heavenly Dao Origin on him, which was the Heavenly Dao Origin of the Great Brahma domain. However, the Heavenly Dao Origin was extremely precious. Wouldn't it be a waste to use it to nurture this Dao tree? Bloodscale seemed to have seen through Zhuowen's thoughts and sneered. I suggest you transplant the Dao tree into the Heavenly Dao Origin. You should know that the Dao aura of the Dao fruit condensed by the Dao tree is much purer than the Heavenly Dao Origin. It's much more effective than using the Heavenly Dao Origin to cultivate. Zhuowen hesitated for a moment before following Bloodscale's suggestion. He planned to transplant the Dao tree into the Heavenly Dao Origin. One had to know that the Dao fruit had many more uses than the Heavenly Dao Origin. Moreover, it didn't have as high of a threshold as the Heavenly Dao Origin. Even if Zhuowen hadn't reached Dao validation, the Dao fruit could still be used for cultivation. When the Dao tree was transplanted into the Heavenly Dao Origin source, Zhuowen discovered that not only did the Dao aura on the Dao tree not fade away, it even became stronger. This made Zhuowen slightly happy. Moreover, the Dao fruit formed by the blood of the Heavenly Dao seemed to have grown a lot after being planted in the Heavenly Dao Origin. The Dao aura on its surface was also a lot denser. After putting away the Dao tree and Heavenly Dao Origin, Zhuowen looked at Bloodscale and said, there's only a one-way teleportation formation in this small world. It's the same whether you enter or leave. Moreover, the teleportation formation is located in the Six Desires Heavenly Domain, which is also the Heavenly Domain where the Door of Profundity is located. Bloodscale frowned. Previously, Zhuowen had told him that the Door of Profundity had been destroyed. Then, the Heaven Domain where the Door of Profundity was located must have been the first to be attacked by the foreign races from the primitive Heaven Domain. In fact, Bloodscale didn't want to come close to the Door of Profundity. His power was severely damaged. If the Devouring Clan entered the 8 Great Heavens through the Door of Profundity, it wouldn't be a good thing for him. Once the Devouring Clan knew that he was still alive and in the 8 Great Heavens, they would definitely send a massive force to capture him. As his power hadn't recovered to its peak, Bloodscale didn't want to encounter anyone from the same race. Is there any other exit? Bloodscale probed. No. This time, I plan to visit the Door of Profundity in the Six Desires Heavenly Domain. If possible, it's better to seal the coordinates of the Door of Profundity, said Zhuowen in a low-pitched voice. Bloodscale shook his head. It's just a temporary measure. Sooner or later, more and more races in the primitive Heaven Domain will know that the Door of Profundity has been destroyed. Even if you seal the coordinates, it won't work. Paper can't wrap fire. Even if it's just a temporary measure, it can buy me a lot of time, said Zhuowen in a low-pitched voice. Bloodscale didn't say anything else. As he had signed a contract with Zhuowen, of course, he couldn't go against Zhuowen's will. Let's go. Following the memory in his head, Zhuowen continued to move forward. Eventually, they arrived at a desert. A pagoda stood in the middle of the desert. This pagoda was exactly the same as the one at the bottom of the Sun Moon Lake. It was the one-way teleport formation to leave this small world. Zhuowen landed in front of the pagoda and made a hand seal. After 15 minutes, he activated the teleport formation in the pagoda. White light covered Zhuowen and Bloodscale. Then, the two of them disappeared at their spots. The instant Zhuowen opened his eyes, numerous sonic booms rumbled over. Subsequently, he discovered that many black figures had appeared before him at some unknown time. These shadows were like ghosts, faintly discernible. They rushed toward Zhuowen and Bloodscale. Zhuowen immediately adjusted the angle of his body. Then he took out the king's sword with his right hand and slashed it around his body. Instantly, terrifying sounds of destruction rang out. Then, the surrounding shadows were smashed into pieces by the terrifying sword aura. After Bloodscale dealt with the surrounding shadows, he came in front of Jun. With a serious look he said, "It's the Black Smoke Clan." Black Smoke Clan? Zhuowen looked at the distant shadows that were still drifting around. He realized that other than their blood-red eyes, their bodies were indeed faintly discernible black smoke. They didn't have a physical shape at all. The Black Smoke Clan is one of the clans in the Eldritch domain. It's considered a low-level clan. There aren't many experts in the Black Smoke Clan. It's one of the lowest clans in the Eldritch domain. Speaking of the Black Smoke Clan, Bloodscale's eyes revealed a trace of disdain. However, the Black Smoke Clan's reproductive ability is extremely terrifying. Although they're one of the lowest clans in the Eldritch domain, they're an extremely terrifying disaster for the cultivators of the Eight Heavens, Bloodscale said indifferently. Zhuowen looked at the densely packed Black Smoke Clan members around him and smiled bitterly. These Black Smoke Clan members were generally at least Su Qiding's level. He hadn't seen anyone below Su Qiding's level yet. Zhuowen even saw a few Life Comprehension Realm Black Smoke Clan members. These clans were the lowest in the Eldritch domain, but in the Eight Heavens, they were enough to destroy any force. Even the ruler of the heavens would be entangled with so many Black Smoke Clan members. We can't be entangled by these disgusting fellows. Let's break through first and then leave this place. Otherwise, it'll be very troublesome. As Shui Lin spoke, he extended his huge claw through the air. Immediately, he tore the incoming Black Smoke clansmen to shreds. Although there were many Black Smoke Clan members, the strongest among them were only at the Life Comprehension realm. They weren't much of a threat to Bloodscale. Zhuowen slashed out dozens of times. Terrifying sword chi shot out like a meteor shower. Instantly, the Black Smoke Clan members in front of him were annihilated, clearing out a huge space. Then, Zhuowen immediately took out the space-time wheel and called out to Bloodscale. He rushed through the cleared space in front of him and quickly left the Black Smoke Clan far behind him. After leaving the Black Smoke Clan, Zhuowen didn't go to the door of profundity in the north of the Six Desires Heavens. Instead, he went to the Pill Furnace Star Zone. Chapter 25-23. Esses camouflage. Along the way, Zhuowen saw countless planets that had become barren and lifeless. He also saw groups of Black Smoke Tribe members. When these Black Smoke Tribe members saw Zhuowen, they roared and surrounded him. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was too fast. These Black Smoke Tribe members simply couldn't catch up with Zhuowen. As he got closer to the Pill Furnace Star Zone, Zhuowen's gaze turned grave. Everywhere he passed, he saw barren ruins and Black Smoke Tribe members. There wasn't even a single human cultivator. It was as if Zhuowen was passing through a dead zone. Zhuowen felt a little guilty when he thought about the Six Desires heavenly domains past and compared it to the current state. He knew that he was largely responsible for the Six Desires heavenly domain becoming a dead zone. If it hadn't been for him, Palace Master Wujue wouldn't have joined forces with the other lords of the heavenly domains to destroy the door of profundity and unlock the seal on the Eldritch heavenly domain. Furthermore, from Bloodscale's words, he could tell that this was only the beginning. The Black Smoke Tribe was only a relatively low-level tribe in the Eldritch heavenly domain. If the true masters of the Eldritch heavenly domain entered the 8 heavenly domains, it would be useless even if the Six Desires heavenly domain was completely sealed. Such a seal would be a joke in the eyes of the true masters. Zhuowen's gaze turned completely gloomy when he arrived at the Pill Furnace Star Zone. At this moment, the huge Pill Furnace Star Zone was actually covered in darkness. The unique, resplendent beauty of the Star Zone was nowhere to be seen. At this moment, the Pill Furnace Star Field no longer had the image of a beautiful star field. Looking from a distance, it looked like a mass of irregular black clouds. Zhuowen couldn't even see a single star in this black cloud. Most of the stars here were dim and lifeless. Zhuowen's gaze landed on the pill tower in the center of the star zone. However, he realized that the central area was even more pitch black. Even with his eyesight, he couldn't see if the pill tower still existed. "Is this star region your destination?" Bloodscale asked in a low voice. Zhuowen nodded. Then, he looked at the black clouds that covered the surface of the star field and said, "Could these be?" "Yes. All of them are from the Black Smoke clan, and all of them are quite powerful. Furthermore, I have discovered that there may be other Black Smoke clan experts in the depths of this star region," Bloodscale said solemnly. "Could it be a Dao-confirming expert?" Zhuowen asked. Bloodscale sneered and said, "The Black Smoke race is just a low-level race in the great desolate heaven realm after all. Do you think it is possible for them to have a Dao validation expert?" "According to my knowledge, the patriarch of the Black Smoke clan is only a half-step Heaven Dao Lord, and there's still quite a distance between him and a true Heaven Dao Lord. A mere star region like this shouldn't be enough for the patriarch of the Black Smoke clan to occupy. However, I can sense the auras of Black Smoke clan experts in the life and death extremities. After all, my strength hasn't recovered yet. With so many Black Smoke clan experts and life and death extremities experts, they should be enough to stall us." Bloodscale didn't say it explicitly, but Zhuowen could hear the hidden meaning in Bloodscale's words. It was extremely unwise for the two of them to barge into the Pill Furnace star region. Zhuowen fell silent. He shook his head and said, "I have to enter this star field. My friend is still in this star field. I want to see if my friend is still alive." Bloodscale said decisively, "You don't need to think about it. Your friends are dead for sure. With so many Black Smoke clan experts, this star region has already become a dead zone. I think you are a smart person, so you should know this." Zhuowen calmly looked at Bloodscale and said, "Yes, I do know this. However, I also know that if I don't go in and see for myself, I will regret it for the rest of my life. I still choose to go in." Bloodscale opened his mouth and looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. He didn't think that this guy would still choose to go in despite knowing the danger. If this wasn't courting death, then what was? "According to the contract, you need to protect my safety. Come with me." Zhuowen's next words immediately caused Shui Lin's face to turn completely gloomy. He felt extremely helpless in his heart. Although he had asked Zhuowen to treat him as an equal, he had still been Zhuowen's servant for the past 1,000 years. How could he abandon his master's servant? If he dared to go against Zhuowen's words, he would suffer a terrible backlash from the contract. "What are you doing?" Suddenly, Zhuowen realized that Bloodscale had unknowingly taken out wisps of black smoke and used them to cover his body. "Aren't you courting death if you charge in recklessly? Of course, you have to disguise yourself." Bloodscale glared and waved his sleeve. He immediately took out a large ball of black smoke and handed it to Zhuowen. Zhuowen looked at the black smoke floating in front of him and his eyelids twitched. Wasn't this black smoke the corpses of the Black Smoke clan members he had killed on his way here? He didn't think that Bloodscale would collect the corpses of the Black Smoke clan members. Speaking of which, the Black Smoke clan was really strange. Except for the pair of scarlet eyes, the rest of their bodies looked like intangible black smoke. If Zhuowen didn't know the identity of the Black Smoke clan members, he would have thought that they were just ordinary black smoke. "Your clone is Devour King. Use Devour King's devouring power to swallow the black smoke on the corpses of the Black Smoke clan members and transform it into your body. Our Devouring clan's most gifted talent is devouring. Then we have imitation. This is something the other clans don't have and can't imitate," Bloodscale said proudly. Zhuowen looked at Bloodscale, who had completely transformed into a member of the Black Smoke clan. His eyes twinkled as he realized that he couldn't see the difference between Bloodscale and the other members of the Black Smoke clan. Moreover, even if he used his soul consciousness to check, he couldn't find the essence of Bloodscale. The Bloodscale in front of him was completely a member of the Black Smoke clan. "You probably don't know this technique. I will teach you now." Most members of the Devouring clan know this technique. However, I am Devour King, So my imitation ability is stronger than the other members of the Devouring clan. You are no exception. Bloodscale seemed to remember that Zhuowen's clone was a wandering member of the Devouring clan. He quickly used his soul consciousness to teach Zhuowen the imitation technique. After receiving Bloodscale's soul consciousness, Zhuowen summoned the black-clothed Zhuowen. He put his real body into the clone's internal world and used the devouring power to devour the Black Smoke clan members in front of him. Then he imitated the aura and appearance of the Black Smoke clan members. A short while later, strands of strange black smoke spread out from all of Zhuowen's acupuncture points. Instantly, Zhuowen was enveloped by the black smoke, turning into a shapeless Black Smoke clan member. Remember, the Black Smoke clan members can't talk. They can only communicate with soul consciousness. If other members of the Black Smoke clan send you soul consciousness, you must not expose yourself. You can use soul consciousness to communicate with them. Bloodscale sent a message to Zhuowen. Chapter 25-24. Sanggu. After entering the Pill Furnace star field, Zhuowen's heart skipped a beat. He realized that the Pill Furnace star field was filled with Black Smoke tribe members. Furthermore, these Black Smoke tribe members occupied various planets in the star field. Zhuowen subconsciously extended his consciousness into a nearby planet, but he realized that there were no other human cultivators on the planet other than the Black Smoke tribe members. However, from the potholes on the surface of the planet, it was clear that an intense battle had taken place on this planet. Get out! The moment Zhuowen's consciousness extended into the planet, a divine thought suddenly rushed over and immediately dispersed Zhuowen's consciousness. Then, the thousands of Black Smoke tribe members on the planet all looked over with their scarlet eyes. Among these thousands of Black Smoke tribe members, a Black Smoke tribe member that was obviously much larger walked out. His scarlet eyes were extremely unfriendly as he looked at Zhuowen and Bloodscale, who were passing by his planet. Are you trying to provoke me, Sanggu? This huge Black Smoke tribe member's divine thought was filled with violence and anger. The two Black Smoke tribe members in front of him were very small, so they were obviously ordinary Black Smoke tribe members. However, one of them actually dared to use his divine thought to check his territory. This made Sanggu extremely angry and saw it as a provocation. Zhuowen was stunned and looked at Bloodscale with some confusion. Bloodscale helplessly said, "In the Eldritch Heaven domain, no matter which tribe it is, territory is very important. You just used your divine thought without permission, right? No wonder the Black Smoke tribe is so angry. Then what do we do?" Zhuowen knew nothing about the Eldritch Heaven domain and could only continue asking. Either you beg for mercy, or you defeat this Black Smoke tribe member and take over this planet, Bloodscale said calmly. While Zhuowen and Bloodscale were talking, the Black Smoke tribe member named Sanggu was enraged. The two fellows in front of him had clearly trespassed on his territory. Now, not only were they silent, they were even leisurely conversing with each other. How could Sanggu tolerate that? Ignorant fellow, today I will let you know the consequences of offending me, Sanggu. Sanggu roared and rushed toward Zhuowen. The black smoke around him turned into a huge black hand and smashed toward Zhuowen. The black smoke race was usually in the form of formless black smoke. However, once they started fighting, the black smoke around them would turn into solid energy. They were a very strange race. Zhuowen naturally did not know the attacking techniques of the Black Smoke tribe. He also knew that once he started fighting with Sanggu, he would definitely be exposed. Therefore, he did not want to fight with Sanggu for a long time. Sanggu's strength was at most in the Life Enlightening realm. Zhuowen's Devouring King clone was in the three extremities. Its strength was comparable to the two extremities of life and death. In order to avoid being exposed, Zhuowen did not dare to take the initiative to attack. He could only wait for the moment when Sanggu smashed into him. Only then would he make his move. Sanggu saw Zhuowen standing there stupidly and laughed proudly. He knew that this Black Smoke tribe member was only good-looking but useless. "Didn't you impudently invade my territory with your spirit sense just now? Why are you so dumb now? But that's fine. I'll just kill you and give those who don't know the rules a lesson." Sanggu sneered. The black hand whizzed past and instantly landed in front of Zhuowen, reaching into the black smoke. Zhuowen silently looked at the black hand that had entered the black smoke and immediately moved. He clenched the fingers of his right hand into a fist and punched out, colliding with the black hand. Rumble! The terrifying sound of air exploding rang out continuously. Then, the black hand suddenly exploded. An even more terrifying energy followed the black hand and blasted into Sanggu's body. Sanggu's laughter was still there. He did not even have time to be shocked before he was blasted into pieces by the energy. The thousands of Black Smoke Tribe members on the planet were all shocked. Then, their eyes filled with respect. They opened a path for Zhuowen as if they were welcoming him into the planet. Xuelin took a deep look at Zhuowen. He had not expected Zhuowen's doppelganger to be so powerful. Although Zhuowen had only punched out once, Bloodscale could feel that Zhuowen's clone was no weaker than him. This is... Zhuowen looked at Bloodscale in confusion. Since you've destroyed the conqueror of this planet, you're naturally the new conqueror. The Black Smoke race has submitted to you. You're the new master of this planet, Bloodscale said with a chuckle. Zhuowen nodded in understanding. However, he did not enter the planet. Instead, he said, "Let's go. I have no interest in taking over this planet. But according to what you said, if I want to take over this star field, I just have to defeat the strongest person from the Black Smoke Tribe?" Bloodscale nodded and said, "That is indeed the case. However, I can tell you clearly that the Black Smoke Tribe's expert who took over this star field is definitely at the two extremities of life and death. It will be very difficult for you to defeat that expert. Moreover, you will definitely be exposed." Zhuowen frowned and said, "Let's go in and take a look. I think it should not be a problem for someone from the Black Smoke Tribe to enter the center of this star field, right?" "Let's go in and take a look." Bloodscale agreed. Thus, the two of them gradually ventured deeper into the Pill Furnace star field. Although the Pill Furnace star field had changed beyond recognition, Zhuowen followed his memories and continued to venture deeper into the Pill Tower. This time, Zhuowen was also being smart. He did not dare to use his divine sense to casually scan the planets they passed by. Otherwise, it would be easy for the ruler of the planet to view it as a provocation. When that happened, it would be another round of trouble. This was not what Zhuowen wanted. Soon, the two of them arrived at the core of the Pill Furnace star field, Pill Furnace City. There were even more Black Smoke Tribe members in Pill Furnace City. The vast continent was basically filled with them. Moreover, the overall strength of the Black Smoke Tribe here was much stronger than the Black Smoke Tribe on the planets they passed by. Zhuowen's gaze fell on the symbolic Pill Tower in the center of Pill Furnace City. He was surprised to find that the Pill Tower was currently surrounded by 8 different colored flames. These 8 flames were integrated and intertwined with each other. They were like the most responsible guards that surrounded the Pill Tower. At this moment, the Pill Tower was surrounded by many Black Smoke Tribe members. These Black Smoke Tribe members were attacking the flames without any regard for their lives. However, most of them were afraid of the flames. Those with insufficient cultivation were directly turned into dregs by the flames. Although these Black Smoke Tribe members were afraid of the flames, they still attacked the flames without any regard for their own safety. They did not care even if they were to die. Zhuowen's gaze fell on a huge Black Smoke Tribe member at the top of the Pill Tower. This Black Smoke Tribe member's aura was much stronger than the others. Chapter 25-25. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and sized up this Black Smoke Tribe member. He found that this Black Smoke Tribe member was actually at the life and death extremes. He was probably the leader of the Black Smoke Tribe that occupied the Pill Furnace star field. At the same time, Zhuowen sighed in relief. Since the Pill Tower was surrounded by a defensive fire formation, it meant that the second elder was still fine. However, Zhuowen could see that the fire formation was on the verge of collapse. It probably wouldn't last much longer. Once the formation was broken, none of the cultivators inside the Pill Tower would be spared. At that time, Zhuowen wouldn't be able to save them. Zhuowen knew that if he wanted to save the Pill Tower, he had to use Bloodscale's method to defeat the leader and become the new leader of the star field. The Black Smoke tribe member floating at the top of the pill tower slowly turned his head and coldly glanced at Joan and Bloodscale, who had just entered Pill Furnace City. After discovering that these two were ordinary Black Smoke tribe members, he ignored them. His territory never accepted trash. These two ordinary Black Smoke tribe members didn't have the right to enter his territory. Of course, he was the high and mighty leader. He naturally wouldn't care about these two ants. There would naturally be people at the entrance to stop these two ants. As expected, when Juan and Bloodscale reached the entrance, they were stopped by two Black Smoke tribe members who were guarding the entrance. Then, they transmitted an extremely unfriendly spirit. Scram. This is the Great Lord Sangua's territory. You two trash aren't qualified to enter. Juan turned his head to look at the Black Smoke race member who sent out the unfriendly message. He sneered and replied, "I want to enter this place. You don't have the right to tell me what to do. Even if Sagwa came personally, I would still beat him down." Juan's reply wasn't small. At least, the Black Smoke tribe members in Pill Furnace City heard it clearly. Their gazes all gathered on Juan at the entrance. Even the Black Smoke race, who had been ordered by Sagwa to attack the pill tower, stopped attacking and looked curiously at Juan. Clearly, no one had expected that an ordinary member of the Black Smoke tribe would have the guts to speak so rudely in Sagwa's territory. Sagwa narrowed his scarlet eyes, coldly sizing up Juan at the door. He was the leader of this galaxy, and no one could replace him. This was the first time he had heard of such an audacious Black Smoke clan ever since he had taken over this galaxy. Of course, he didn't make a move. As far as he was concerned, this ant was simply courting death, and his subordinates would ruthlessly torture this ant to death. Sure enough, the Black Smoke race guard was only momentarily stunned when Juan uttered those harsh words. Soon after, he furiously attacked. "Ignorant fool, how dare you behave so atrociously in the territory of the Great Sagwa? Today I will destroy you." The Black Smoke race guard sneered. He took a step forward, and the black smoke around him boiled violently, transforming into a huge black blade that slashed directly at Juan. Juan silently looked at the Black Smoke race guard. He still didn't take the initiative to attack. After all, he knew that if he did, he would easily be exposed. Juan's actions immediately caused the surrounding Black Smoke tribe members to roar with laughter. Many of them secretly despised this Black Smoke tribe member who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He was actually courting death. When the Black Smoke race guard's long blade landed on Juan's body, Juan also punched out. His fist smashed into the long blade, shattering it with a single punch. Terrifying energy flowed along the blade and landed on the Black Smoke race guard's body. Then, the Black Smoke race guard didn't even make a sound before he was blown to smithereens. The Black Smoke race guard's strength was even weaker than the Black Smoke race that Juan had encountered before. Destroying this Black Smoke race guard was no problem for Juan. The Black Smoke race in Pill Furnace City were all stunned. They watched in disbelief as the Black Smoke race guard was blown to smithereens right in front of them. Then, they looked at Juan with respect. No matter where it was, the strong were fated to be respected by others. Whether it was the human race or the Black Smoke race, the strong preyed on the weak. This was a very normal phenomenon. Now that Juan had killed the Black Smoke race guard with a single punch, he naturally received the respect of the other Black Smoke race guards. Guisan, who was originally floating above the pill tower, narrowed his scarlet eyes. His gaze once again landed on Juan as he observed the latter from head to toe. Clearly, he was surprised that the latter had actually suddenly erupted and killed the Black Smoke tribe's gatekeeper. "You are not bad. You have the right to enter my territory and serve me." Sagwa looked at him for a while before finally speaking. His voice was full of dignity and unquestionable authority. The Black Smoke race of Pill Furnace City looked at Juan with envy. They knew very well that if Sagwa personally accepted someone from the Black Smoke race, they would be recognized by Sagwa and valued by him. When the time came, the Black Smoke race's status would be limitless. Juan sneered in his heart but didn't answer Sagwa. Instead, he swaggered into Pill Furnace City with Bloodscale. Sagwa stared coldly at Juan. He was very unhappy that Juan had ignored him. Just as he was about to speak, Yuan stood in front of the pill tower and took the initiative to speak. Sagwa, I don't want to become your subordinate, Zhuowen said flatly. Sagwa frowned and snorted. He sent out an unfriendly spirit force. Then what do you want? I want this entire starfield, Zhuowen said flatly. Sagwa's eyes narrowed when he heard this. The Black Smoke race of Pill Furnace City was in an uproar. None of the Black Smoke race thought that the Black Smoke race that had just entered Pill Furnace City would not only destroy the Black Smoke race guarding the gate, but also want to challenge the master of this starfield, Sagwa. You want to challenge me? Sagwa's spirit force was filled with murderous intent. Ever since he had taken over Pill Furnace Starfield, no one had dared to provoke him like this. Now that someone had done so in front of so many people, Sagwa's expression turned ugly. Then you will regret it. Sagwa snorted coldly and grabbed a purple hand from the black smoke. This purple hand wasn't big, but it had a terrifying aura that could shake heaven and earth. When the purple hand came down, the Black Smoke race of Pill Furnace City all showed fear in their eyes. They retreated, not daring to get close to this purple hand. You're the one who provoked this. Don't call me in. You're on your own. Bloodscale, who was standing next to Zhuowen, took a few steps back after sending the message. He obviously wouldn't interfere with the battle between Zhuowen and Sagwa. Zhuowen glanced at Bloodscale, who was retreating, but didn't say anything. He wanted to face Sagwa alone, so he didn't want Bloodscale to stay. Chapter 25-26. Challenging Sagwa Rumble. Terrifying shockwaves spread out in all directions. Zhuowen frowned and couldn't help but take a few steps back. Sagwa, on the other hand, remained motionless in the air. The collision just now had no effect on him. Zhuowen knew that he was at a disadvantage this time because he was worried about exposing his identity and couldn't use his full strength. After all, once he was exposed, the entire Black Smoke tribe in the Pill Furnace Star Zone would attack him together. They wouldn't give him a chance to fight Sagwa alone. Sagwa looked at him with disdain and said, I thought you were strong. I didn't expect you to be so useless. Zhuowen didn't seem to hear Sagwa's mockery. He said nonchalantly, Fight me outside if you have the ability. With that, Zhuowen leaped out and left the Pill Furnace City. He headed toward the remote starry sky in the north of the Pill Furnace Star Zone. This was the Black Smoke tribe's nest. If he fought here, there would be too many people and it would be too easy for him to be exposed. Hence, he had to choose a remote place to fight with his full strength. Sagwa didn't suspect him at all. Perhaps the fight just now made him feel that the Black Smoke tribe was quite strong, but they were still too weak compared to him. Hence, he followed Suimo. After Zhuowen and Sagwa left the Pill Furnace City, the Black Smoke tribe in the city didn't follow. In their eyes, this was a battle for the leader. It was sacred, and they didn't have the right to follow. On the 10th level of the Pill Tower, 8 figures sat cross-legged. 8 different colored flames surged from their bodies. These 8 flames rushed to the top of the tower and gathered around the tower, forming a protective flame barrier. Needless to say, these 8 figures were the 8 great elders of the Pill Tower. The second elder suddenly opened his eyes and said in surprise, The Black Smoke tribe stopped attacking the Pill Tower? The other 7 elders also opened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with confusion. Clearly, they were the same as the second elder. Let's see what's happening outside. The second elder made a prompt decision and waved his sleeve. Immediately, the flame in the sky clearly revealed an image. This image showed what was happening outside the Pill Tower. From the moment Zhuowen entered Pill Furnace City to the moment Zhuowen and Sagwa left Pill Furnace City, the 8 elders had seen everything that had happened. Looks like a fierce person has appeared in the Black Smoke race. Now, he's challenging the Black Smoke expert who occupied Pill Furnace City. The 7th elder sighed. They had been here for far too long. Every day, they faced the endless attacks of the Black Smoke tribe. Even though the Pill Tower had an abundance of divine pills, the 8 elders still felt immense pressure. They knew they couldn't hold on for much longer. Now that the Black Smoke tribe had stopped attacking, it was undoubtedly a timely reign for them. The second elder smiled bitterly and said, After the Black Smoke tribe is destroyed by Sagwa, They will continue to attack the pill tower. Our fate has already been decided. As soon as the second elder said this, the other 7 elders fell silent. Most of the geniuses and experts of the pill furnace star field lived in the pill tower. However, they knew that these experts weren't enough to deal with the Black Smoke tribe. Once the pill tower was destroyed, all the cultivators inside would die, including the 8 elders. Several hours later, Nguyen stopped at an extremely remote region in the northern region of the pill furnace galaxy. There were basically no other Black Smoke tribe members in this region. Juan was very satisfied with this region. This is a good place to destroy the corpse. Looks like you've already chosen a place to bury yourself. Sagwa landed not far behind Juan and said without any trace of politeness. Juan turned around and glanced at Sagwa nonchalantly. This is where you will be buried. With that, Juan took out the phagocytosis and took a step forward. The phagocytosis expanded to thousands of feet in size. It was like a mountain as it slammed into Sagwa's head. The moment Sagwa saw the phagocytosis, he frowned. He realized that the phagocytosis wasn't a materialization of the Black Smoke tribe's black smoke energy. Instead, it was more like a divine artifact of the human race. However, Sagwa didn't think too much about it. He sneered and the black smoke around him transformed into a long spear. 2 purple hands appeared and grabbed the long spear. It was like a rainbow piercing through the sun as it pierced towards the phagocytosis. Bang! Countless sparks exploded. The phagocytosis was pushed back a distance by the long spear. Sagwa himself was also pushed back by the energy. He frowned and looked at Juan, who was holding the phagocytosis, in surprise. At this moment, Juan's strength was completely different from before. Wasn't he much stronger than when he was easily defeated by him? Looks like you've been hiding part of your strength. Sagwa's eyes were gloomy. He took a step forward and waved the long spear in his purple hands. It turned into a sky full of spear shadows and formed a strong whirlpool of killing intent that engulfed Juan. Juan heaved a sigh of relief. Sagwa's strength wasn't very strong. He should be at the early stage of the 2 extremities of life and death. He was much weaker than Palace Master Wujua. Now that his doppelganger had reached the 3 extremities, he wasn't even afraid of Sakyamuni, let alone Sagwa, who was even weaker than Palace Master Wujua. However, an expert at the 2 extremities of life and death wasn't that easy to kill. Juan believed that he could easily defeat Sagwa, but it would be difficult to kill him. However, Juan had already prepared a backup plan. The reason why he had lured Sagwa to such a remote space was to prepare for that backup plan. Bang! Juan once again summoned the phagocytosis. It collided with Sagwa's long spear. Sparks flew everywhere and exploded in space. Suddenly, the 2 of them started fighting. The terrifying shockwaves spread out and formed terrifying ripples in the surrounding space. Many of the Black Smoke tribe members hid far away. They didn't even dare to use their divine consciousness to observe. They just watched from afar. They knew that this battle was about the leader of the star field. The winner would become the new leader of the star field. According to the rules, they had to submit to the new leader. However, none of the Black Smoke tribe members noticed that in the space where Juan and Sagwa were fighting, there was an obscure figure moving around. If one looked closely, it was a white-robed youth. However, the white-robed youth's aura was hidden to the extreme. If one didn't use their divine consciousness to check carefully, they wouldn't be able to discover this white-robed youth. Now, most of the Black Smoke tribe members were watching the battle from afar. They didn't even dare to use their divine consciousness. How could they discover this white-robed youth hiding in the space crack? As for Sagwa, all of his attention was focused on Juan. It was even more impossible for him to notice this white-robed youth with an obscure aura. The white-robed youth was Juan's original body. When Juan lured Sagwa to this remote space, his doppelganger secretly released his original body and hid it in space. When his doppelganger and Sagwa were fighting, his original body quietly came out. Juan's original body looked at Sagwa and his doppelganger, who were still fighting. His eyes flashed, revealing a serious expression. He knew very well that his doppelganger was very powerful. If he revealed his trump card, Sagwa would definitely realize that something was wrong. Then, Sagwa would definitely escape. As long as Sagwa escaped, Sagwa would expose the fact that Juan wasn't from the Black Smoke tribe. At that time, Juan would have to face the entire Black Smoke tribe in the star field. This wouldn't be good for Jun. Chapter 25-27. Killing Sagwa. Juan had secretly set up multiple level 9 trap and kill arrays in the surrounding space. Now that Juan was a level 9 divine array master, setting up a level 9 trap and kill array was a piece of cake for him. After setting up the level 9 trap and kill array, Juan's original body slowly hid in the starry sky and blended into it. Boom, boom, boom. The battle between Juan and Sagwa became more and more intense. The surrounding space was shattered and destroyed, and the Black Smoke tribe members who were watching from afar revealed looks of respect. Of course, the respect in their eyes wasn't directed at Sagwa, but at Juan. Sagwa was the leader of their star field, but this new member of the Black Smoke tribe could actually fight with their leader to such an extent. Clearly, this Black Smoke tribe member was extraordinary. Bang! There was another intense collision. Juan held onto the phagocytosis and leaped back, increasing the distance between him and Sagwa. Sagwa also hurriedly retreated, but his hands formed from black smoke were on the verge of collapse, and countless cracks had appeared on the surface of his long spear. On the other hand, Juan was full of energy and didn't show any signs of depression. It was obvious that Juan had the absolute upper hand in the battle just now. Sagwa's eyes were filled with fear and seriousness. He coldly stared at the phagocytosis in Juan's hands and said, "What kind of technique is this? This isn't the Black Smoke tribe's way of attacking." Juan narrowed his eyes. He knew that Sagwa had indeed discovered something amiss during the battle just now. Juan didn't answer Sagwa's question. Instead, he took a step forward like the wind and threw the phagocytosis at Sagwa. He knew very well that if he answered Sagwa's question now, it would only leave him with more flaws. Therefore, he had to get rid of Sagwa before he could react. At the same time, the moment Juan threw out the phagocytosis, endless black fog burst out from his body. In just an instant, the black fog enveloped the surrounding space. Juan and Sagwa's figures were completely engulfed by the black fog. Within the black fog, Sagwa's expression changed. He vaguely guessed Juan's intention. Then, he realized that in front of the black fog was a human in black. "You're not from the Black Smoke tribe? You're from the human race." The moment Sagwa saw Juan, his pupils shrank and he couldn't help but shriek. From the beginning, he had felt that something was amiss. Juan. Juan appeared in his mind's words. Was Juan from the Black Smoke tribe? Of Shou Juan's Fangs of. It turned out that the strange Black Smoke tribe in front of him was a human in disguise. Sagwa couldn't figure it out. If this human was pretending to be from the Black Smoke tribe, he would be able to see through the flaws very quickly. But how could this human in front of him be able to disguise himself so perfectly? Although Sagwa was suspicious, now was not the time for him to think about it. Juan's attack was coming. Black fog burst out from Sagwa's body. Then, he turned into a 30-meter-tall giant. The giant held a huge double-edged axe in both hands and swung it at Juan with a roar. The double-edged axe cut through space and produced a terrifying whistling sound. Even Juan was moved. Boom! The double-edged axe and the phagocytosis smashed together. The surrounding black fog rolled like a tsunami in the sea. Juan groaned. He flipped the phagocytosis over and immediately used the soul kill. His powerful consciousness turned into a terrifying whirlpool of killing intent. It crashed into Sagwa's mind, causing him to scream in pain. His body stopped moving for a moment. Juan seized this opportunity and smashed his fist onto the 30-meter-tall giant's body. Extreme fire, extreme thunder, and extreme wind, the three types of extreme energy, turned into three directions and blasted into Sagwa's body with great coordination. Boom! Boom! A thunderous sound kept ringing out from Sagwa's body. The 10-zhang-tall giant that Sagwa had transformed into burst out a terrifying black fog. Then, the 10-zhang-tall giant's body exploded into formless black smoke. The moment the giant exploded into black smoke, Sagwa let out a blood-curdling scream. Soon after, the black smoke condensed into a tiny black needle and fled towards the back. Its speed was so fast that even Zhuowen did not have time to react before it was already far away. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He sneered and immediately activated the level 9 trap and kill array. These level 9 trap and kill arrays were set up at the edge of the black fog. Zhuowen had already planned for this. Bang! When Sagwa's black needle was about to leave the edge of the black fog, a transparent energy barrier appeared in front of Sagwa and blocked the black needle. Bastard human, what are you trying to do? When Sagwa realized that there was a level 9 trap and kill array at the edge of the black fog, his eyes were filled with despair. He turned back into black smoke and stared at Zhuowen with his scarlet eyes. Zhuowen walked over slowly and said, "My friends are in the Pill Pagoda. You want to break open the Pill Pagoda and kill my friends? What do you think I want to do?" Sagwa's eyes flashed. He quickly said, "Since your friends are in the Pill Pagoda, I will leave immediately. I won't cause any trouble for you and your friends." Zhuowen sneered, "I don't believe you. I'd rather believe a dead person." With that, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with intense killing intent. He immediately summoned the phagocytosis and smashed it at Sagwa. At the same time, Zhuowen's original body appeared silently in the black fog. He formed a seal with both hands and the trap and kill array was immediately activated. The black-clothed Zhuowen followed the phagocytosis and punched out again. The boundless extreme fire energy turned into a fire dragon and swallowed Sagwa. Sagwa could only passively resist. Unfortunately, the extreme fire energy was quite effective against him. Just as he blocked the extreme fire energy, he groaned, his voice filled with pain. Boom! The phagocytosis also smashed over, causing Sagwa's injuries to worsen. The trap and kill array's boundless killing intent poured onto Sagwa. Zhuowen silently looked at Sagwa, who was barely holding on. He knew that Sagwa wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. Whether it was the phagocytosis, the extreme fire energy, or the level 9 trap and kill array, they were all enough to threaten the extreme realm of life and death. Now that all three were used together, even Palace Master Wu Juem might die, let alone Sagwa, who was only at the initial stage of the extreme realm of life and death. Sure enough, after a while, a blood-curdling scream was heard. Sagwa was completely annihilated under the attacks of the three major techniques, completely disappearing from this world. Chapter 25-28. Proof. When the black fog dissipated and Zhuowen walked out, the countless Black Smoke tribe members who were watching from afar were stunned. Then, an uproar broke out. Zhuowen had appeared, while Sagwa had disappeared. Everyone knew that Sagwa had lost the battle for the position of leader. The price Sagwa had to pay was to disappear from this world forever. When Zhuowen returned to Pill Furnace City, the core of the Pill Furnace star field, countless Black Smoke tribe members lowered their heads, their scarlet eyes filled with reverence. They knew that they were about to welcome their new leader. At this moment, they naturally threw Sagwa to the back of their minds. Zhuowen looked at the countless Black Smoke tribe members in Pill Furnace City and sighed inwardly. The Black Smoke tribe was indeed realistic. In the Black Smoke tribe, only the strong reigned supreme. There were no rules at all. As long as you were strong enough, you would be the boss and could do whatever you wanted. Blood Scale landed in front of Zhuowen and sized him up. His eyes were filled with dread. He hadn't expected that Zhuowen had hidden such great strength. Even Xue Lin knew that if he were to face Sagwa, he would still be able to defeat him. However, if he wanted to kill Sagwa, he would have to go through a lot of trouble. He wouldn't be able to kill Sagwa as quickly as Zhuowen. Of course, if Bloodscale knew that Zhuowen had set up a grade 9 death trap array in advance, he wouldn't have been so surprised. A grade 9 death trap array was very effective against life and death stage experts. Moreover, Zhuowen's strength was above Sagwa's, so it made sense that he could kill Sagwa so quickly. Let's go! Zhuowen glanced indifferently at Bloodscale, whose eyes were filled with dread, and landed in front of the pill tower. The members of the Black Smoke tribe lowered their heads and didn't dare to make a sound. This was a powerful existence that killed Sagwa, so how could they resist? At this moment, the 8 colored flames around the pill tower were still burning fiercely. The black smoke race who had originally attacked the pill tower all stood on the side of the pill tower. They only dared to steal glances at Jun, but their hearts were filled with sighs. They knew that the new leader would probably be the same as Sagwa. He would make them attack the pill pagoda in a suicidal manner. One had to know that the black smoke race was most afraid of extremely hot flames. Attacking the pill pagoda's fiery defensive array in such a frenzied manner would only end in their deaths. However, they knew that they couldn't disobey their new leader. If their new leader wanted them to continue attacking the pill tower, they could only do so. Everyone from Pill Furnace City, get the hell out. I like peace and quiet, I don't like noisy crowds. If anyone dares to enter Pill Furnace City, I'll kill them. A tyrannical divine sense swept out like a hurricane, covering the entire Pill Furnace City. The members of the black smoke race who were still in Pill Furnace City were stunned. They immediately understood and rushed out, leaving the city. The members of the black smoke race who had been told to only attack the pill tower were relieved of a heavy burden. They bowed deeply toward Joan and left Pill Furnace City as well. Before long, the noisy Pill Furnace City became extremely quiet. Only Zhuoan and Bloodscale remained. On the 10th floor of the pill tower, the 8 elders in charge of the fiery defensive array also saw the members of the black smoke race leave one after another. They were all surprised. The new black smoke race must have defeated Sagwa and become the new leader of the star domain. However, this new leader is really strange. He actually dismissed all the black smoke race in Pill Furnace City, the second elder said in surprise. The eyes of the 7th elder flickered. Second elder, we can't last for long. The new leader just happened to dismiss all the black smoke race in Pill Furnace City. As long as we work together, we might be able to eliminate this leader. The moment the 7th elder suggested this, the other elders nodded in agreement. Their main fear was that the black smoke tribe would join forces and attack them. After all, there were just too many of them. They weren't weak either. If they worked together, even 100 pill towers wouldn't be able to stop them. Now that there were only 2 members of the black smoke race left in Pill Furnace City, it was naturally an opportunity for them. The second elder firmly objected. No, you all know how strong Sagwa is. He's an expert who's barely reached the 2 extremes of life and death. If the black smoke race can defeat Sagwa and become the new leader, their strength is unfathomable. We can't take the risk. The other elders only came to their senses after hearing the second elder's words. They thought about it and felt that the second elder's words were correct. Among the 8 of them, only the second elder was slightly stronger. However, he was only half-step illusionary sky 9th step. Even if the 8 of them were proficient in joint attacks, they could only defeat Life in Lightning Realm experts. Against Life and Death Realm experts, it was useless even if the 8 of them worked together. How would we know if we don't try? The 7th elder said unhappily. The second elder looked at the 7th elder solemnly. Just as he was about to scold him, he suddenly paused and his eyes revealed a look of ecstasy. What's wrong? The other elders looked at the second elder in surprise and asked curiously. Hurry up and open the 8-colored flame array, the second elder blurted out. The other 7 elders looked at the second elder strangely. They all subconsciously thought that the second elder was talking nonsense. Second elder, what are you saying? If we open the 8-colored flame array, won't we let the 2 members of the black smoke race into the pill tower? The 7th elder said with a frown. I'm going to let them in. Hurry up and open the 8-colored flame array, the second elder said with ecstasy. This time, even the 7th elder's expression turned ugly. Just as he was about to speak, the second elder hurriedly added, the 2 members of the black smoke race are on our side. One of them is Zhuon. He's here to save us. The other 7 elders were shocked. Among them, the 7th elder said in disbelief, Second elder, did the black smoke race send you a message? How can you believe the black smoke race's nonsense? The second elder calmed down and said, I'm sure it's Zhuon because he mentioned the alchemy fire. Apart from the 8 of us here, only Zhuoan knows that the alchemy fire is with Zhuon. The other elders were moved, but the 7th elder still said unhappily, it's hard to guarantee that this matter won't be leaked. If the black smoke race finds out, They might be digging a hole for us to jump into. Unless he can take out the alchemy fire as proof. The second elder frowned slightly. He understood the seventh elder's caution, so he sent a message to Zhuan. Standing outside the pill tower, Zhuan also received the second elder's message and took out the alchemy fire. Chapter 25-29. Black Smoke King. Not long after Zhuan took out the alchemy fire, the 8 colored flames on the surface of the pill pagoda gradually dissipated, revealing the original appearance of the pill pagoda. Zhuan put away the alchemy fire and did not immediately enter the pill pagoda. Instead, he set up a powerful restriction around the area. After setting up the restriction, the second elder led the other 7 elders down the pill pagoda. Zhuan. The second elder looked at Zhuan, who was shrouded in black smoke, and asked with uncertainty. Second elder, long time no see. Let's go in first. It's not convenient to talk here. Blood Scale, you stand guard outside the pill pagoda. If anything happens, send me a message immediately. Zhuan instructed Blood Scale, then followed the second elder into the pill pagoda. On the 10th floor of the pill pagoda, Zhuan waved his sleeve, and the black smoke around him dispersed, revealing a black-robed Zhuan. The alchemy fire was lying lazily on his shoulder. When the second elder and the others saw that it was really Zhuan, they all heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were shocked by Zhuan's strength. The leader of the Black Smoke clan, Sagua, had the strength of the 2 extremes of life and death. Zhuan could actually defeat Sagua and become the new leader. It was obvious how powerful Zhuan was now. Zhua Xiaoyu, did you defeat Sagua? The second elder asked with uncertainty. Zhuan nodded and said without batting an eyelid, I killed Sagua. When these words came out, the 8 elders all sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Zhuan in a daze. The second elder smiled bitterly and said, Zhua Xiaoyu, your progress is too fast. Zhuan was extremely calm. He knew that his rapid progress was not a fluke, but an opportunity that he had obtained by risking his life time and time again. Let's not talk about this. By the way, second elder, is your pill pagoda the only one that survived in the entire 6 Desires heavenly realm? Zhuan asked. The second elder shook his head and said, it should not be just our pill pagoda. There are other forces, but they are not much better than our pill pagoda. Sigh, there are too many members of the Black Smoke clan. 50 years ago, there weren't many of them. After 50 years of development, these monsters have spread heavenly realm, they have caused the current disaster. Zhuan nodded his head. Although he wanted to help the other powers in the heaven region, he knew that this was not realistic. Right now, he didn't even know how to save the people from the pill tower, let alone the other powers. Realm 6 Heavenly Realm. Tuan Lu Zioan Lu Realm, Lu in the heavens he was. Second elder, if you believe me, you can stay in my inner world for a while. After I leave the 6 Desires heavenly realm, I will take you out of the 6 Desires heavenly realm. As he spoke, Zhuan waved his sleeve. Immediately, a black vortex appeared beside his right hand. He continued, this vortex leads to the world within my body. Don't worry, it's very safe inside. Moreover, it's very large. The second elder glanced at the whirlpool and said, Zhua Xiao, thank you. There are not only 8 of us in the Pill Pagoda. There are also many cultivators from the Pill Furnace Galaxy. It's no problem. My inner world is very big. It can accommodate everyone in the Pill Pagoda. Zhuan said with a smile. That's good. I will go and arrange it now. Wait a moment. The second elder stood up with a happy smile on his face. Then he led the other elders to the Pill Pagoda to gather the cultivators who were hiding in the Pill Pagoda. Soon, under the second elder's guidance, the cultivators entered the devouring whirlpool one by one. Zhuan's inner world contained many planets with life. Zhuan deliberately chose a relatively remote and uninhabited planet to accommodate the cultivators in the Pill Pagoda. He also set up a barrier on that planet to prevent these cultivators from exploring the mysteries of his inner world. Although Zhuan trusted the second elder, he did not trust the cultivators hiding in the Pill Pagoda. After spending half a day, the second elder sent all the cultivators in the Pill Pagoda into his inner world. Then he cupped his hands and said gratefully to Zhuan, "Zhuo Xiaoyu, if we are saved this time, I really have to thank you." After saying this, the second elder glanced at the pill fire lying on Zhuowen's shoulder. Then he smiled bitterly and said, "Zhuo Xiao, I see that the pill fire is fated to be with you. In the future, you can keep the pill fire with you. There is no need to return it to the pill pagoda." After saying this, the second elder took out several jade slips and handed them to Zhu. He said seriously, "These jade slips record the main knowledge of the pill Dao, the refining method, and my many years of experience in refining pills. Perhaps Zhuo Xiaoyu will find it useful. Take it as a reward for saving our pill pagoda." Zhuan accepted the jade slips with joy. Zhuan had wanted to learn about the pill Dao for a long time, but he was too embarrassed to ask the second elder. When he was in the heavenly armor continent, Zhuan had only scratched the surface of the pill Dao. He even relied on the Fushi cauldron to refine pills. He himself was completely ignorant. After leaving the heavenly armor continent, Zhuan came into contact with the array Dao. Thus, he began to comprehend the array Dao step by step. He studied the array Dao until he became a level 9 array Dao divine master. Although he also wanted to study the alchemy Dao, even in the starry skies, there were very few records about the alchemy Dao. Moreover, the pill furnace star field was a rare place that had developed the alchemy Dao to such an extent. Therefore, why wouldn't Zhuo Wenru drool over the pill furnace star field's alchemy Dao? Now that the second elder had directly offered the pill Dao to him, how could Zhuan not be excited and happy? "Many thanks, second elder," Zhuan hurriedly said. The second elder smiled and said, "I should be the one thanking you." After saying this, the second elder entered the devouring whirlpool. He was the last one to enter the devouring whirlpool. After putting away the devouring whirlpool, Zhuan immediately received a message from Bloodscale. His expression changed drastically. He released the black smoke again and covered his body. Then he walked out of the pill pagoda. "What's wrong?" When Zhuan walked out of the pill pagoda, he saw a member of the Black Smoke tribe standing beside Bloodscale. This member of the Black Smoke tribe was standing to the side in an extremely respectful manner. When he saw Zhuowen come out, he immediately bowed and saluted. "The Black Smoke King has come to inspect. We must go and receive him." Bloodscale helplessly transmitted. Zhuowen's gaze moved slightly. Bloodscale had told him about the Black Smoke King before. He was the king of the Black Smoke tribe, just like the king of the Devouring clan. Only the strongest of the entire tribe could be crowned as king. Zhuan did not expect that the Black Smoke King would suddenly come to inspect this place. Could it be that he had discovered something wrong? However, that was not right. He had just defeated Sagwa not long ago. Logically speaking, the Black Smoke King could not have received the news so quickly. "Let's go and take a look first." As Zhuan spoke, he hurriedly left Pill Furnace City with Bloodscale. The member of the Black Smoke tribe who had come to inform him respectfully followed behind. They swept to the edge of the Pill Furnace galaxy. Everywhere they passed, the members of the Black Smoke tribe looked at Zhuan with reverence. Floating at the edge of the Pill Furnace galaxy, Zhuan looked into the distant starry sky. There, a black light swept over. Its speed was extremely fast, and it quickly landed not far in front of the galaxy. Chapter 25:30. Not good. After the black shuttle stopped not too far away, it suddenly dispersed into thick black smoke. This black smoke was not the incomparably black smoke of the ordinary black smoke race. Instead, there was a trace of grayish-white within the black smoke, which looked somewhat horrifying. Soon after, the black smoke reformed into a middle-aged man with grayish-white hair. The middle-aged man before them was basically the same as a human from head to toe. The only difference was his grayish-white hair. The grayish-white hair on the middle-aged man's head was extremely strange. It was not in the shape of hair but in the shape of smoke. When the middle-aged man appeared, the Black Smoke race member behind Zhuan immediately prostrated himself on the ground. He trembled as he said in a trembling voice, "Greetings, my king." It was not just this Black Smoke race member. The Black Smoke race members in the distant star field all prostrated themselves on the ground. Their eyes were filled with fear and reverence. Zhuan and Bloodscale stood side by side. When they saw the middle-aged man walking over, they merely bowed in respect. Zhuan was not from the Black Smoke race. Furthermore, given his personality, he naturally would not prostrate himself on the ground in front of others. This was not in line with his character. As for Bloodscale, that was even more impossible. This Bloodscale was the previous Devouring King of the Devouring race. His status was much higher than this Black Smoke King's. Now that he saw the Black Smoke King, it would be strange if he knelt down. The Black Smoke King slowly walked over and looked at Zhuan and Bloodscale, who merely bowed. However, he did not get angry. Instead, he said indifferently, "You were the one who killed Sagwa and snatched the position of leader of this star field." Zhuan's heart tightened. He could clearly feel that after the Black Smoke King finished speaking, an intense murderous intent locked onto him. It caused all the hair on his body to stand on end. "So strong," Zhuan exclaimed in his heart. Just the murderous intent released by the Black Smoke King made him feel as if it was difficult to resist. He knew that the Black Smoke King's strength was much stronger than Sagwa's. In fact, he was much stronger than Zhuan himself. Previously, Bloodscale had said that the Black Smoke King's strength should only be at the level of a half-step Heavenly Path Master. He was still quite a distance away from the true Dao validation. He was merely a half-step Heavenly Dao Lord, yet he was able to give him such immense pressure. What if he was a true Heavenly Dao Lord? Thinking of this, Zhuan knew that he was just a frog at the bottom of a well. Compared to the true experts of the Great Desolate Heavenly Domain and the Shenmi Heavenly Domain, his cultivation was really insignificant. However, Zhuan also knew that he had unlimited possibilities. Who could guarantee that he would not reach such heights in the future? Thinking of this, Zhuan abruptly raised his eyes and met the Black Smoke King's gaze without any hesitation. After sensing the terrifying killing intent of the Black Smoke King, Zhuan knew that he was no match for the Black Smoke King. However, if the Black Smoke King wanted to kill him, it would not be that easy. Therefore, Zhuan did not need to fear the Black Smoke King. The Black Smoke King glanced at Zhuan in astonishment. He had not expected that this person from the Black Smoke tribe would actually dare to look him in the eye under the pressure of his killing intent. "May I know why my king has come to Sajwa's territory?" Zhuan asked indifferently. He had unintentionally made up the name Sajwa for himself. After all, if he did not have a name or surname, it would arouse suspicion. "So your name is Sajwa. Since you were able to kill Sagwa, your strength should be above Sagwa's. Are you interested in becoming my right-hand man?" The Black Smoke King asked with a faint smile. Zhuan shook his head and flatly rejected the Black Smoke King. Instead, he continued, "Thank you for your kindness, my king. Sajwa does not have great ambitions. I only like to settle down in a corner and do not wish to take the next step. This time, my king has come to my territory. There must be something important, right?" The Black Smoke King nodded and said, "Head to my palace in 10 days. I am currently gathering all the experts in my tribe. I need your help to welcome a few esteemed guests to the 8 heavenly domains." "Esteemed guests?" Zhuan asked subconsciously. The Black Smoke King laughed and said, "The cultivation of the humans in the 8 heavenly domains is very weak. However, their array skills are very strong. The heavenly domain that our Black Smoke tribe has occupied is called the 6 Desires Heavenly Domain. However, the exit of the 6 Desires Heavenly Domain has been sealed by other tribes. Our Black Smoke tribe is completely helpless. If we want to conquer the other heavens, we must break the seal. In order to break the seal, I have coincidentally contacted the experts of the Devouring Clan. I plan to use the Devouring Clan's innate ability to devour and the Black Smoke tribe's attack techniques to break the seal of the 6 Desires Heavenly Domain in one fell swoop." Zhuan narrowed his eyes and inadvertently glanced at Bloodscale beside him. Seeing that the latter was completely indifferent, he replied, "My king, are you planning to gather all the experts in your tribe to break the seal together?" Although there were many races in the ancient desolate heavenly domain and their overall strength was extremely terrifying, there was basically no array skill or alchemy skill. In the ancient desolate heavenly domain, which believed in the supremacy of the strong, there were basically no creatures who studied array skills or alchemy. This also caused the ancient desolate heavenly domain to be far inferior to the Xianmi heavenly domain in this aspect. Even the 8 heavenly domains were far inferior. Although the Black Smoke tribe was powerful because they knew nothing about array skills, they only knew how to mess around. Naturally, it was impossible for them to break the array. The Black Smoke tribe was originally the lowest race in the ancient desolate heavenly domain. They were even more fearful of array skills than the other races. Although the Devouring clan was not proficient in array skills, their devouring power had a restraining effect on array skills. Moreover, if they were lucky, their devouring power might even expose the array skills' weaknesses. Attacking the array skills' weaknesses was naturally much better than attacking randomly. Did the Devouring clan also come to the 8 heavenly domains? Zhuan realized that something was wrong and immediately asked. The Black Smoke King did not notice the strange expression on Zhuan's face. He said in a deep voice, "Our Black Smoke tribe was the luckiest. We were the first to discover the entrance to the 8 heavenly domains. However, the location of the entrance was extremely hidden. In the past 50 years, only our Black Smoke tribe has been able to enter the 8 heavenly domains. Originally, I did not plan to share the 8 heavenly domains with the other races. However, we have encountered a problem in the past 50 years. Therefore, it will be difficult for our Black Smoke tribe to occupy the 8 heavenly domains by ourselves. Moreover, I am also afraid that the human race of the Xianmi heavenly domain will discover it in advance. Therefore, a few days ago, I informed several races of the location of these races. The most important race is the Devouring clan. It is said that after Devouring King Bingju found out, he was extremely interested. He has already sent a Devouring clan expert under his command to scout the area. That expert will arrive soon." When the Black Smoke King said this, Zhuan's heart sank. He did not expect that the Black Smoke King would actually expose the location of the barrier. Chapter 25:31. Scheming. Zhuan's expression turned ugly when he thought of this. The Black Smoke clan was already troublesome enough. If other clans joined in, it would be difficult for the 8 heavens to resist. Even if the Formation Dao was more effective against the creatures of the primitive heavenly realm, it was unlikely that they would be a match for them. After all, the gap between the two sides was too big. Remember, you must come to my palace in 10 days. I have to inform the other clansmen of the heavenly realm. The Black Smoke King turned back into a black shuttle and left the Pill Furnace Star Zone. Zhuan looked at the Black Smoke King with some doubt. He sent a message to Bloodscale. The Black Smoke clan is so big. Don't they have any means of communication? Do they have to send a king to send a message personally? Bloodscale smiled and said, "Every clan in the primitive heavenly realm has a corresponding means of communication. However, if you want to ask the clan's experts for help, the person asking for help must invite them personally. This is the importance of the clan's experts. Only in this way will the clan's experts help you wholeheartedly." Zhuan nodded when he heard this. The customs of the primitive heavenly realm were indeed very different from the human clans of the 8 heavens. In the 8 heavens, it was basically impossible for the heavenly realm's lords to invite anyone personally. They only needed to send a message. However, it was different in the primitive heavenly realm. However, when he thought of the fact that the primitive heavenly realm was a place where the strong reigned supreme and where there was great tolerance and respect for the strong, Zhuan felt relieved. Your Devouring clan also knows this location. If we meet the Devouring clan, we'll be exposed easily. Zhuan looked at Bloodscale seriously. Bloodscale sneered. As long as we leave the 6 Desires heavenly realm, we won't meet the Devouring clan's experts. Do you want me to deal with the Devouring clan's experts who are about to arrive? Zhuan shook his head. The Devouring clan was obviously much stronger than the Black Smoke clan. The experts they sent were at least half-step heavenly path masters. Moreover, due to their innate talent, they were definitely much stronger than the Black Smoke King. Right now, Bloodscale's strength had only recovered to the life and death extreme realm. Even facing the Black Smoke King would be difficult, let alone facing the Devouring clan's experts. What I mean is that you help me temporarily seal off the location of the door of profundity and destroy the Black Smoke King at the same time, Zhuan said with a cold gaze. Zhuan knew very well that if he did not destroy the Black Smoke King, it would be useless even if he sealed the location of the door of profundity. The Black Smoke King could still transmit its exact location through the entrance of the door of profundity. Bloodscale frowned slightly. His eyes flickered as he said coldly, "The Black Smoke King is a half-step heavenly path lord. My strength is only at the two extremities of life and death. Even if your doppelganger has reached the level of 3 extremities, the most we can do is fight him to a standstill if we join forces. However, wanting to kill the Black Smoke King is simply a pipe dream." Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he said, "There are still 10 days. If I allow you to cultivate in the heavenly path origin for 10 days, are you confident that you can recover your strength to the level of a half-step heavenly path lord, or even surpass that?" When Bloodscale learned that Zhuan had the heavenly path origin on him, he revealed an extremely yearning expression. However, Bloodscale concealed it very well. However, Zhuowen's perception was extremely sharp. He knew that the heavenly path origin was the energy that Tao-proving experts cultivated. Although he did not obtain much of the heavenly path origin from the Great Brahma domain, he believed that it should not be a problem for Bloodscale to recover to the level of a half-step heavenly path lord. Originally, Zhuan would not be so generous. However, the Black Smoke King was too powerful. If he did not borrow Bloodscale's strength, he would not be a match for the Black Smoke King. Fortunately, he had signed a contract with Bloodscale. Therefore, Zhuan was not afraid that Bloodscale would attack him after his strength increased. As expected, when he heard that Zhuan actually intended to let him cultivate in the heavenly path origin, Bloodscale's eyes immediately revealed a blazing light. He said in a deep voice, "If I have the heavenly path origin, I am confident that I can recover my strength to the peak of the life and death extremes within 10 days. As for becoming a half-step heavenly path lord, that will depend on luck. If your cultivation reaches the peak of the life and death extremes, are you confident that you can fight against the Black Smoke King?" Zhuan asked in return. Bloodscale hesitated for a moment, then said, "The innate talent of the Devouring clan is much stronger than that of the Black Smoke tribe. Although the Black Smoke King is from the royal family of the Black Smoke tribe and is not an ordinary member of the Black Smoke tribe, I am the king of the Devouring clan. My innate talent will only be stronger than the Black Smoke King's. If I reach the peak of the life and death extremes, I will be able to defeat the Black Smoke King. However, I will need your help to kill the Black Smoke King." Hearing this, Zhuan was overjoyed. He immediately came to an agreement with Bloodscale. In the next 10 days, Zhuan took out the heavenly path origin and let Bloodscale cultivate in the heavenly path origin. Seeing the heavenly path origin being continuously consumed, Zhuowen's heart bled. There were only 8 portions of the heavenly path origin in the 8 heavens. It could be said that it was extremely rare. Now, seeing Bloodscale absorbing the heavenly path origin's energy like a whale sucking in water, how could Zhuan not feel heartache? After 10 days, 1/3 of the heavenly path origin in Zhuowen's body had been absorbed by Bloodscale. As for Bloodscale, his strength had also reached the peak of the life and death extremes. Sigh. If it weren't for the fact that my realm is insufficient, I would have used the heavenly path origin to cultivate and increase my strength. Looking at Bloodscale sitting cross-legged in front of him and silently breathing, Zhuan felt extremely depressed. Zhuan had just broken through to the life-comprehending realm. Absorbing the heavenly path origin would only allow him to reach the peak of the life-comprehending realm at most. It wouldn't be of much use to his strength. However, Bloodscale was different. At his peak, he was at the peak of Primordial Chaos Lord. His realm far surpassed Zhuan's. However, because he had been exiled and sealed for many years, his strength had declined greatly. Bloodscale had a very solid foundation. What he lacked was a huge amount of heavenly path origin's energy. As long as he had enough energy, Bloodscale's strength would quickly recover. Of course, Bloodscale also knew that the amount of energy he needed to recover his peak strength was absolutely terrifying. Even if all the energy in the 8 heavens were added together, it wouldn't be enough for him to recover his peak strength. However, Bloodscale wasn't in a hurry. He planned to slowly recover his strength in the next 1,000 years. Once he recovered his strength, he would kill his way back to the devouring clan and retake the throne. Bloodscale opened his eyes and laughed. The heavenly path origin is really good. Recovering strength is unexpectedly fast. After saying that, Bloodscale reluctantly watched Jun quietly withdraw the heavenly path origin. He knew that if he absorbed all the heavenly path origin in Zhuowen's body, his strength should be able to recover to the level of a half-step heavenly path master. Unfortunately, Jun stared at Bloodscale like he was guarding against a wolf. He had no intention of taking out the heavenly path origin for Bloodscale to absorb. Chapter 25:32. Domineering, it's time for us to leave. The 10-day deadline is up. It's time for us to head to the Black Smoke King's palace. Zhuowen said calmly. Bloodscale nodded and immediately followed Zhuowen out of the Pill Furnace Star Field. After leaving the Pill Furnace Star Field for some distance, Jun took out the space-time wheel and disappeared into the starry sky with a whoosh. The Black Smoke King's palace was located at the former site of the Six Desires Palace. Ever since Palace Master Wujue was killed by Sakyamuni, the Six Desires Palace had been in a state of complete chaos. Later, when the Black Smoke tribe wreaked havoc, the cultivators in the star field where the Six Desires Palace was located had all fled. The Black Smoke King naturally saw the energy there was the most abundant, so he built his own palace at the former site of the Six Desires Palace. When they were not far from the palace, Jun put away the space-time wheel and entered the palace with Bloodscale. At this moment, the 6 palaces at the former site of the Six Desires Palace were no longer there. Instead, they were replaced by a huge black palace. This palace was surrounded by black gas and looked quite strange. After Zhuowen reported his name at the entrance, he was allowed to enter. After walking through a long corridor, Jun stopped in an extremely spacious hall. There were 7 seats surrounded by black smoke in the hall. At this moment, the Black Smoke King was sitting in the main seat. Other than the Black Smoke King, 5 of the other 6 seats had already been occupied. There was only 1 seat left, and it was obvious that this seat was prepared for Jun. "Oh, I heard that you defeated that trash Sagwa. What kind of despicable method did you use?" A Black Smoke tribe member sitting next to the empty seat looked at Zhuowen with a pair of scarlet eyes as he mocked him. Zhuowen glanced at this Black Smoke tribe member indifferently. This Black Smoke tribe member's strength was not bad. He was also at the 2 extremes of life and death. His aura was even stronger than Sagwa's, and the black smoke around him faintly revealed a golden color. He was quite domineering. "Sagwa is only trash. I destroyed that trash with a single punch. As for you, you're even more useless than Sago. I don't even need to do anything. My subordinates can kill you with a single punch," Jun retorted without holding back. This member of the Black Smoke race had made things difficult for Jun the moment he opened his mouth. Clearly, he did not have any good intentions. Naturally, Jun did not want to be outdone. He knew that if he were to show weakness at this time, it would only allow this guy to climb up the pole, and when the time came, he would want a yard after taking an inch. The moment Jun said this, the Black Smoke race's face darkened. He sneered and said, "How arrogant. Do you think you are invincible just because you defeated Sagwa? Then I'll have to test your capabilities." As he spoke, the Golden Black Smoke clan member leaped out and charged at Zhuowen. The golden smoke condensed into a giant palm and grabbed at Zhuowen. Zhuowen stood where he was without moving. It was as if he did not care about the Golden Black Smoke race's attack. The other members of the Black Smoke race in the hall looked at this scene mockingly. Even the Black Smoke King looked at the Golden Black Smoke race with interest. They did not know this new leader, Sajua. Although they knew that Sagwa was killed by Sajua, they did not see it with their own eyes. Now that the Golden Black Smoke race had attacked, they could secretly see how strong Sajua was. Bloodscale, who was standing beside Zhuowen, shook his head helplessly. He knew that Zhuowen wanted him to attack. Thinking of this, Bloodscale took a step forward. The moment the golden hand approached him, he punched out. The terrifying power instantly shattered the golden hand. The Golden Black Smoke clan member let out a muffled groan and flew back in a sorry state. He smashed into a thick stone pillar behind him. His entire body twitched and he was actually heavily injured. The few members of the Black Smoke race and the Black Smoke King's faces froze. They had guessed that this would be a fierce battle, but they did not expect it to be one-sided. Moreover, the one who attacked this time was not Sajua. It was just one of his followers. If a mere follower was so strong, then how strong would the master, Sajua, be? Thinking of this possibility, the other members of the Black Smoke race all looked serious and fearful. Even the Black Smoke King squinted his eyes and looked at Blood Scale, who was beside Juan. Juan sat down casually and patted the golden Black Smoke race's seat. He said to Blood Scale, "Blood Scale, there is an extra seat here. You can sit here." Blood Scale nodded and took the golden Black Smoke race's seat without hesitation. The golden Black Smoke race, who was struggling to stand up, saw that Blood Scale had taken his seat. He was so angry that he almost couldn't stand straight. The injuries on his body worsened. "My king, this person is too much. Not only did he hit me in front of you, but he also let a follower take my seat. He doesn't respect you at all," the golden Black Smoke race could not help but say. Juan sneered and said, "You provoked me first. So what if I hit you? Also, you can't even compare to my follower. Do you think you have the right to sit in this seat?" The golden Black Smoke race was so angry that he trembled. He pointed at Juan but could not say anything. The Black Smoke King looked coldly at the golden Black Smoke race and said, "You can leave now." The golden Black Smoke race's expression changed. He knew that the Black Smoke King had already eliminated him. Chapter 25:33. Sneak attack. As they got closer to the desolate northern region of the Heaven Domain, the number of Black Smoke clan members scattered in the surroundings decreased rapidly. As they got closer to the north, Jun did not see many Black Smoke clan members on the road. The starry sky energy here is the thinnest in the Six Desires heavenly domain. Furthermore, there aren't any large galaxies or star regions. I'm afraid there aren't many Black Smoke clan members willing to stay in the northern region of the Heaven Domain. Juan guessed inwardly. The group stopped at the northern edge. Juan raised his head and looked over. He discovered that there was a rather large black hole at the edge. At the edge of this black hole, there was a strange purple gas. However, this purple gas was extremely thin and was almost completely covered by the black hole. Juan looked at the black hole in front of him. He knew that this should be the true barrier inside the Door of Profundity. Back then, the interior of the Door of Profundity was filled with purple Tao energy. After the Door of Profundity was shattered, the purple Tao energy naturally drifted away. Juan's consciousness also checked this black hole. He discovered that this black hole was the barrier of the Door of Profundity. Thinking back to the transparent barrier he saw back then, Juan knew that what he saw was probably an illusion. It was very likely that the Door of Profundity contained an extremely advanced illusory array. As the Door of Profundity was shattered, the illusory array was naturally broken as well. Thus, the true face of this barrier was revealed. Juan laughed bitterly in his heart. Thinking about the extremely dangerous prehistoric heavenly domain on the other side of this barrier, he secretly exclaimed that he was lucky that he did not enter this barrier back then. Otherwise, his end would have been truly dangerous. This barrier that connects to the prehistoric heavenly domain is extremely unstable. Its location is also extremely hidden. Furthermore, in order to prevent the other clans from discovering it, I've done some things. Thus, if you want to enter this place from the prehistoric heavenly domain, you need my personal guidance. The Black Smoke King stood at the forefront and looked at the black hole in front of him as he spoke indifferently. After speaking, the Black Smoke King landed in front of the black hole. His hands formed a seal, and just as he was about to guide the experts of the Devouring clan on the other side of the barrier, his expression changed greatly. He suddenly threw a punch. Puchi! The Black Smoke King was caught off guard. He was directly thrown into the black hole in front of him by a huge force. However, the Black Smoke King was no ordinary person. The moment he entered the black hole, his entire body disintegrated into countless grayish-white mists. Soon after, The grayish-white fog was like a long stream as it abruptly bypassed the black hole and landed several thousand miles to the side, revealing the pale face of the Black Smoke King. From the moment the Black Smoke King had almost fallen into the black hole to the moment he had safely dodged it, only half a breath of time had passed. The 4 Black Smoke Tribe powerhouses had not even had the time to react before the Black Smoke King had already dodged it with great difficulty. The moment the Black Smoke King dodged the attack, a shriek rang out from one of the 4 Black Smoke Tribe powerhouses. The last Black Smoke Tribe powerhouse was struck by a huge phagocytosis. The moment the phagocytosis struck the Black Smoke Clan expert, 3 waves of extreme lightning, extreme fire, and extreme wind energy surged into the Black Smoke Clan expert's body like 3 fire dragons. Caught off guard, the Black Smoke Clan expert was annihilated by the sudden attack. The hearts of the other 3 Black Smoke Tribe experts trembled as they hurriedly distanced themselves. Only then did they realize that the one who had launched the attack was actually Sajwa. At the same time, they also clearly saw that the one who had launched the sneak attack on the Black Smoke King was actually Sajwa's follower, Bloodscale. Juan sighed softly in his heart. He had originally thought that the Black Smoke King would be blasted into the black hole barrier by Bloodscale's sneak attack. After that, he would immediately set up a sturdy restriction around the barrier before setting up a concealment restriction to completely conceal the location of the barrier. Unfortunately, the Black Smoke King was no ordinary person. In that moment of crisis, he had actually dispersed into countless grayish-white mists and dodged Bloodscale's sneak attack. However, what made Juan feel gratified was that his sneak attack had also eliminated one of the Black Smoke Tribe powerhouses. Juan naturally targeted the weakest of the Black Smoke Tribe experts. Although the Black Smoke Tribe expert that had been eliminated by his sneak attack had a cultivation base at the 2 extremities of life and death, his strength was even weaker than Sagwa's. Juan had been able to eliminate Sagwa in a head-on battle. Now that he had launched a sneak attack, it was naturally impossible for this Black Smoke Tribe expert to escape unscathed. Sajwa, Bloodscale, what's the meaning of this? The Black Smoke King's face was somewhat pale. Just now, his entire body had dispersed into grayish-white mists and dodged Bloodscale's fatal attack. However, it had also consumed a lot of his energy. At this moment, the Black Smoke King was angrily looking at Sajwa and Bloodscale. His voice was filled with an interrogative tone. The other 3 Black Smoke Tribe experts vigilantly landed around the Black Smoke King. Their eyes were also angrily staring at Juan and Bloodscale. Attack! Unfortunately, Juan had no intention of explaining anything to the Black Smoke King. After the Black Smoke King had finished speaking, Juan turned into a stream of light and swept toward the 3 Black Smoke Tribe experts beside the Black Smoke King. Bloodscale, on the other hand, charged directly toward the Black Smoke King. You're courting death. The Black Smoke King saw Bloodscale directly attacking him and was immediately enraged. If it weren't for Bloodscale's sneak attack, he wouldn't have had to use his life-saving technique so early. One had to know that the life-saving technique he had just used was his innate remarkable ability. Using it once consumed a lot of his energy. After using it just now, his strength had decreased by quite a bit. Now that he saw that the culprit still dared to attack him, the Black Smoke King was naturally enraged. Although he was enraged, the Black Smoke King was still relatively cautious. Bloodscale's sneak attack just now was not weak. Even he was somewhat afraid of it. Fortunately, the aura on Bloodscale's body was only at the pinnacle of the 2 extremes of life and death. Although the Black Smoke King had used his life-saving technique and consumed a lot of his energy, he was still a half-step heavenly law master. How could Bloodscale possibly be a match for him? Boom, boom, boom. In just an instant, Bloodscale and the Black Smoke King bombarded each other. Then, the 2 of them exchanged hundreds of blows in an instant. The Black Smoke King became more and more shocked as the fight went on. He realized that Bloodscale's strength was actually not the slightest bit weaker than his. While Bloodscale and the Black Smoke King were fighting, the 3 Black Smoke Tribe experts split into 3 different directions and surrounded Juan. Although the aura on Juan's body was not obvious, they didn't dare to underestimate him in the slightest. After all, Sajwa had such a powerful Bloodscale as his follower. This person's strength might even be above that of Bloodscale. Zhuowen immediately brought out the phagocytosis. At the same time, the three extreme powers of extreme fire, extreme thunder, and extreme wind surged out and transformed into three attacks that blasted toward the three Black Smoke Tribe experts. At the same time, Zhuowen's original body was hidden in the surroundings and began to secretly set up a level 9 trap and kill array. Chapter 25-34. The Furious Black Smoke King. Bang. 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 Zhuowen immediately clashed with the three experts from the Black Smoke Tribe. Soon after, Yun fell into a disadvantageous position. The three experts from the Black Smoke Tribe had already prepared themselves for a bitter battle. Now that they discovered that Sajua wasn't as strong as they had imagined, they were immediately overjoyed. "Let's kill him together and then help our king." One of the experts from the Black Smoke Tribe revealed a bloodthirsty glint in his eyes as he spoke. His attacks became even more ferocious and terrifying. The other two didn't need him to speak. Naturally, they increased the frequency and strength of their attacks. In an instant, Yun had completely fallen into a disadvantageous position. Even parrying the attacks was a little difficult. Zhuowen's heart sank. He had somewhat underestimated the strength of these three experts from the Black Smoke Tribe. These three experts were basically at the intermediate stage of the life and death dual extremities. If he was facing one of them, Yun would still be able to hold back. However, two of them would be a little difficult for him. Now that there were three of them attacking together, Yun was clearly in an extremely passive position. Bang, bang, bang. In less than 10 breaths of time, Zhuowen's body had been attacked several times by the three experts. Fortunately, his doppelganger possessed the bloodline of the Devourer King. With the strength of his physical body, he was able to forcefully resist these attacks. At this moment, Zhuowen no longer took the initiative to attack. Instead, he was passively defending. He was waiting for his main body to finish setting up the 9th rank Death Trap Array. Once the 9th rank Death Trap Array was set up, he would explode forth. This time, he had to kill these three experts from the Black Smoke Tribe. Otherwise, if they were to leave alive, he and Bloodscale would have to face an endless number of experts from the Black Smoke Tribe. Pucci. Finally, the three experts from the Black Smoke Tribe immediately blasted away the phagocytosis. They wanted to deal the final blow to Zhuowen, but their expressions changed drastically. This was because they discovered that the surrounding energy ripples had suddenly become crazy. Under these crazy energy ripples, their movements became extremely sluggish. It was as if a towering mountain was pressing down on them, making it difficult for them to even move. It's a restriction array. How does this guy know restriction array? After the three Black Smoke Race experts felt the crazy energy in the surrounding space, they immediately thought of something. They looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. In the Eldritch Heavenly Realm, there was basically no race that was willing to study the art of formations. Therefore, in the Eldritch Heavenly Realm, except for the top 10 races, the other forces rarely used formations, and there were no formation talents. The Black Smoke race was one of the lowest races in the prehistoric heaven domain. Naturally, they didn't have any formation talents. However, this Sajua from the Black Smoke race actually knew formations. How could they not be shocked? As soon as the level 9 Death Trap Array was activated, his main body, which was hidden in the starry sky, flew out. Then, a boundless sea of space-time spread out within the range of the level 9 Death Trap Array. At the same time, the ninefold Tao intent within Zhuowen's body was unleashed without restraint. A dazzling purple sun rose from the horizon, and the terrifying space-time energy crushed down. The three Black Smoke Race experts were already in a difficult situation due to the sudden appearance of the level 9 Death Trap Array. Now that Zhuowen's main body had appeared, he immediately used the space-time ability, Waning Sun Above the Sea. The three of them were caught off guard, and they almost knelt on the ground. A loud roar came, and the black smoke around the clone suddenly scattered, revealing a 30-meter-tall golden beast. The giant beast suddenly lashed out with a dazzling golden claw, smashing mercilessly at the Black Smoke Clan expert at the very front. Instantly, The black smoke race expert didn't even have time to react before the beast claw shattered him. He didn't even have time to groan. Heavens, it's actually the devouring race and the human race. The other two black smoke race experts finally reacted. They stared blankly at the black smoke race expert who had been killed by the clone, and then at the 30-meter-tall golden beast in disbelief. At the same time, they also noticed Zhuowen's main body, who had used the space-time ability, waning sun above the sea. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. They didn't sense the aura of the golden beast wrongly. It was indeed the devouring race. After all, their black smoke race had fought with the devouring race before, so they knew the aura of the devouring race very well. However, they didn't understand why the devouring race would team up with the human race to kill them. It should be known that the human race was the common enemy of all the races in the primitive heavenly region. Once the human race fell into the primitive heavenly region, they would either be killed or treated as despicable slaves to be humiliated. However, the two remaining black smoke race experts didn't have time to think about why the devouring race and the human race would team up to attack them. At this moment, the human race and the devouring race were like two rainbows cutting across the starry sky, violently rushing towards them. Bang, bang, bang. In the blink of an eye, the two black smoke race experts were forced back by the two attacks. They were at an absolute disadvantage. Trapped in a grade 9 death trap array, coupled with the terrifying space-time mystic ability of the human, the two black smoke race powerhouses' movements became extremely sluggish under the double pressure. They could only unleash half of their strength. Another blood-curdling scream resounded. Then, one of the black smoke race experts was pierced by the golden beast claw of the doppelganger. With a rip, the doppelganger tore him into pieces, dispersing into endless black smoke. When the last black smoke race expert saw that his comrade was killed, he was shocked. Zhuowen's main body found a flaw in his defense. Then, the king's sword pierced through the heart of the last black smoke race expert at an extremely tricky angle. The king's sword swung violently, and the death chi exploded. Naturally, the black smoke race expert followed in the footsteps of his comrade. After Zhuowen had successfully eliminated the three black smoke race experts, the battle on the other side had reached its climax. Bloodscale had long since torn off his disguise, revealing the enormous devouring king. The enormous blood-red body was like a blood-red mountain, towering and unapproachable. Devouring king? The black smoke king revealed a shocked and furious expression. Then he realized that the other three black smoke race experts had also been eliminated. On the other side, he also saw a devouring race expert and a human with the bloodline of the devouring king. When did your devouring race sneak into the 8 heavens? Didn't I make an agreement with you? Did I let you in so that we could break the seal of the 6 desires heavens together? The black smoke king stopped on the side and said with a gloomy face. Just as Bloodscale was about to speak, he was interrupted by Zhuowen. Zhuowen said indifferently, "We have already found the location. How can your puny black smoke race be compared to our devouring race? Today, I will annihilate your entire black smoke race. These 8 heavens belong to our devouring race, not your lowly black smoke race." Bloodscale's eyes flickered as he looked deeply at Zhuowen. He had already guessed Zhuowen's intention, but he did not say anything. Instead, he watched in silence. Chapter 25-35. Destroying the Black Smoke King. Let's attack together. Zhuowen immediately sent a message to Bloodscale. His doppelganger merged with his main body. He took a step forward and threw out a punch. The power of 3 levels burst out and smashed into the Black Smoke King's body. Bloodscale also attacked at the same time. He waved his huge beast claw and countless blood-red vortexes appeared in the surrounding starry sky. Each of the blood-red vortexes contained a peerless killing power that could easily kill an ordinary life and death stage expert. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, the 3 of them engaged in battle. The starry sky exploded and collapsed. The Black Smoke King was worthy of being the king of the Black Smoke race. His strength far exceeded Zhuowen and Bloodscale's expectations. Even if Zhuowen and Bloodscale joined forces and used all their skills, They could only suppress the Black Smoke King. They could not kill him at all. Your devouring race is too arrogant. Today I will make you stay here forever. Soon, all the Black Smoke race in this heaven will come. You can wait to be attacked by the endless Black Smoke race, the Black Smoke King said coldly. Zhuan's expression changed slightly. He did not expect the Black Smoke King to secretly send out a message without him noticing. If that was the case, then he and Bloodscale were in a really bad situation. After all, facing an entire heaven's Black Smoke race, unless one was at the level of the Heavenly Lawmaster, they would definitely fall. Even the Heavenly Lawmaster would find it difficult to resist the endless Black Smoke race. He would have to pay an unimaginable price. Bloodscale, don't hold back. You must destroy the Black Smoke King as soon as possible. Zhuan sent a message to Bloodscale. After all, this Bloodscale was the previous Devouring King. He did not believe that this guy did not have a powerful trump card. As expected, Bloodscale showed hesitation. He said, "The side effects of my trump card are too great. Once I use it, my realm may fall." We're already at a critical juncture. Why are you still hesitating? Zhuan said coldly. Bloodscale nodded and said, "Step back first. No matter how powerful my trump card is, it is not hard to guarantee that it will be able to kill this Black Smoke King. After all, this Black Smoke King's life-saving methods are very powerful. You have seen it for yourself just now. We can only give it our all. Don't worry, if you don't kill this Black Smoke King, I will help you clean up your mess," Zhuan said in a deep voice. Zhuan recalled the first move of the tyrannical Dao slaughtering art that he had just learned, the slaughtering Dao finger. Although his realm was only at the life enlightenment realm, after fusing with his clone, his strength was close to the peak of the life and death realm. He knew that his current strength was sufficient to annihilate a half-step Heavenly Dao Master and even pose a threat to the Heavenly Dao Master. Bloodscale looked at Zhuan, who was full of confidence, in astonishment. In the end, he nodded and did not say anything. When Zhuan took a few steps back, Bloodscale's gaze became serious. Then, the blood-colored scales all over his body suddenly stood up. After that, waves of blood energy gushed out from the gaps between the blood-colored scales. The blood energy continued to churn. Then, it condensed into a blood-colored halberd that was hundreds of feet long. When the blood-colored halberd finally took shape, Yun heard the sound of an arrow leaving the bowstring. Then, a surge of killing intent spread throughout the entire starry sky. Just the killing intent alone caused the surrounding starry sky to tremble, collapse, and tumble. Zhuan found it hard to imagine. If he were to face this blood-colored halberd head-on, he was afraid that he would not have a good ending. The Black Smoke King also felt the peerless killing intent in the starry sky. Then, he saw the blood-colored halberd break through the air and his pupils could not help but shrink. He wanted to avoid it, but the killing intent of the blood-colored halberd was too terrifying. It firmly locked onto him. He knew very well that no matter where he hid, he would not be able to avoid this blood-colored halberd. This was because he had been completely locked onto. Unless he could break free from this killing intent. Unfortunately, he knew very well that he could not do so at the moment. The blood-colored halberd violently pierced through the Black Smoke King. Then, the Black Smoke King's body was sent flying, dispersing into countless grayish-white mists. These grayish-white mists tumbled and fell not far away. They once again condensed into the Black Smoke King's body. However, the Black Smoke King's face was increasingly pale. The moment the Black Smoke King reformed his body, his expression changed greatly again. This was because the killing intent did not disappear. Instead, it locked onto him once again. Then, the blood-colored halberd suddenly turned around and pierced through the Black Smoke King once again, destroying him. Bang bang bang. Wherever the killing intent spread, the Black Smoke King had nowhere to hide. It was like a cycle of reincarnation. He was pierced and shattered by the blood-colored halberd again and again. He was shattered a total of 9 times. When the Black Smoke King reformed his body for the 10th time, the blood-colored halberd suddenly collapsed. The peerless killing intent also disappeared without a trace. Bloodscale violently spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His entire body was overflowing with bloody mist. He could no longer maintain the Devourer King form and reverted to the body of a man dressed in blood-red clothes. His face was pale and bloodless. Zhuan rolled up his sleeves and caught blood scales flying body. I've already done my best. This Black Smoke King's innate ability is too abnormal. I've killed him 10 times, but this guy won't die at all. Bloodscale said with a bitter smile. At this moment, Bloodscale was on the verge of collapse. His entire body was powerless. He could not even maintain the Devourer King form. This showed how weak he was. The Black Smoke King sighed softly. Although he was also on the verge of exhaustion, he was still relieved in his heart. His innate ability could only be used 12 times at most. Now that he had used it 10 times in a row, there were only 2 more times left. After these 2 times were used up, if he were to be killed again, he would really be done for. Fortunately, Bloodscale was already completely exhausted. Otherwise, the Black Smoke King knew that he would really be done for. Now, all he needed to do was stall for time. When the Black Smoke race arrived, these 2 people would undoubtedly die, and he would certainly be saved. Zhuan turned his head and looked behind him. In the distance, he could vaguely see a black mass that covered the sky and covered the earth. Although he could not see it clearly, he knew that it should be the endless Black Smoke race. He had not expected the Black Smoke race to arrive so quickly. He had to completely eliminate the Black Smoke King before the Black Smoke race arrived. As he thought of this, Zhuan suddenly stepped forward. His hands quickly formed seals. Then his right index finger bent and pointed at the void. Suddenly, the heavenly path energy in the starry sky boiled. With a light tap of his finger, the boiling heavenly Tao energy frantically condensed into a huge finger. This finger was only a few dozen feet in size, but the terrifying heavenly path aura that emanated from it caused the Black Smoke King's heart to tremble. What kind of innate ability is this? The Black Smoke King only had time to say this one sentence before the heavenly path finger pointed at the void. Then, the Black Smoke King did not even have time to grunt before he was annihilated by the heavenly path finger. After that, the Black Smoke King reformed his body with great difficulty not far away. Zhuan violently spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he pointed his right finger again. The heavenly path finger once again blasted toward the Black Smoke King, who had just reformed his body. Without exception, the Black Smoke King was once again blasted into smithereens. When the heavenly path finger blasted toward the Black Smoke King for the 3rd time, the Black Smoke King knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. He knew that this time, he would not be able to use his life-saving innate ability. This time, he would truly die. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.